to welcome you to the Beyond the Sport podcast. You're my first interview since putting my studio back together and kind of redoing how I want to do my podcast.
Good, what's only up from here?
Yeah. Well, let's hope this is an awesome and it sets the bar for everybody else that comes in after you because I've got another one lined up already. I'm still keeping it athletics based, of course, and most importantly, Christian based, which
Sure.
is the biggest reason I, talk to you to
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
And but I'm moving outside of just the athletes now. I want to add some more depth to it. And I met you a couple years ago on the football field as a content creator.
Yeah, that was my I'll never forget. I think I can't remember at that time how I went and made that. I think I did it for Brody. That I was doing
Brody
that one
Wood.
highlight video for Brody for him. And yeah, and that's when, because I think me and Taylor, our paths had crossed a couple times, and I think we knew who each other were.
Yeah, he's the one that
Yeah.
introduced me to you.
Right, you're right. And then I remember us all talking down there on the field together,
And here we are collaborating.
I know, right? I know, it's a small world coming full circle for
Yeah,
sure.
I thought that was really neat. And I thought when I talked to you on the football field this year, because you did all the videos
Right.
for the football team this year. And by the way, they were great.
Thank you so much.
What a
I appreciate
progression
it.
over the course of the year.
Thank you.
I just thought you did an amazing job
No, thank
representing
you.
the team.
It was, I think, looking back on that, and which obviously we can get into more on that later, but that was probably the most challenging and rewarding thing at the same time. Looking back, and yeah, it was a blessing for sure to, I felt fortunate even just getting to, the opportunity to do it. Taylor, he did a great job leading up. I always enjoyed his content and everything he did. And then just the opportunity kind of came up, and Taylor, how God works in mysterious ways, and
Yeah.
and it's like, you look back and it's like, okay, if this hadn't happened, and this and this and this, when you have that perspective to be able to look back and be like, okay, that's why that happened, and this is why this happened.
God's hindsight for us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then because of the government shutdown too, to which we'll get into your job a little, you had a long period where you got to really focus on your videos.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just focus on my craft for sure.
That it really is great. Well, let's kind of back up a little bit.
Yeah.
You grew up in Brownwood.
I did.
So you not real far from here, Brownwood Lion.
Yep.
And went to school there. Did you play sports in your youth?
Yep, I did. I was thinking back now, I'm trying to remember everything that I played. For sure, they didn't have tackle football until junior high at Brownwood. And I remember, I guess once I got to junior high or high school, and they got Pee Wee football, and I was like, man, I would have given anything to get to put pads on, when I was little. But yeah, I did, I guess, flag football up until junior high, till I got to put pads on. Basketball, track, baseball, and got into golf a little bit later in high school. And yeah, my sister, she ran track. We've always been a sports oriented family. My sister, she ran track. She went to SFA
nice.
for a couple of years and ran track there, and then she transferred to Tarleton. And she's 5 years older than me. I guess she's 4 or 5 years older than me. 4, yeah, 4. Anyway, I have one older sister.
For those of you who don't know who he was looking at, his wife Krista is in the room with us.
Yeah.
So she's going to be our helper.
She's going to keep me honest for sure. Yeah, and then I went after I graduated from Brownwood. Went to Tarleton, and obviously, I mean, I just had I guess you could say, an average career as far as high school sports goes. I wasn't just a
You were
recruiter, anything like that by any means, but sports was a big part of my life for sure. And,
well-rounded athlete, it sounds like. You've had your hand in every sport.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I'm always like just a jack of all trades, master of none, so to speak.
Kind of like a biology degree.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And but yeah, just like even early on, before I was even in high school, I mean, I always loved, specifically football. I just always loved being around the game. And I mean, I was the ball boy for Brownwood looking at those players back then, you think they're, these idols, and you're like, one of these days I'm gonna get to be one of these guys.
Kind of like the kids here do when they
Yeah,
look up to the
absolutely.
players.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what those kids are feeling because being like-minded, you get around those players, you're like, man, one of these days I want to be like them. But I remember those moments back then, and I just enjoyed being on the field, being around the game, and I still feel like that's a big part of, sports isn't all I do now by any means, but it's probably where my heart and passion is the most. And
Yeah. And you've got young kids, so they'll be,
yeah,
your son's getting to an age where he's coming up and ready to start the Pee Wee
yes,
football and flag
yeah,
football and
all of that.
baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. But she kind of threw us for a curveball. Neither one of us knew. My family didn't grow up playing soccer. She didn't play soccer, and anyway, that's his thing though, and he is
And Brock doesn't have
no,
soccer.
not yet. So, but that's his jam, and he loves it. And he's actually really good at it. So, um, it's been fun for us. It's like probably one of the first things that I haven't been a coach at, for him, like on
Okay.
his team, because I've coached all his youth stuff pretty much from.
You're like, soccer. Wait a minute. I got to go Google this
Yeah,
and watch
I'm
some
like,
YouTube
other than putting it
videos.
in the goal, what else are we trying to accomplish here? And yeah, so that's honestly, it's been fun for me to just get to like go to the games and or practices and just get to be a parent and
I
get
know
to
somebody that
watch.
can take some really good pictures for you so
Right,
that you can watch the
for
game.
sure. And like every once in a while, I still can't help it. I'll go and make some videos of him, um, just because he always likes watching my videos, and then when it's of him, he's like, it's
My
cool.
dad made a video of
Yeah,
me.
so it's cool. There's time because it's like I do it so much during the season. It's like, man, I just want to sit and enjoy myself and just be in the moment,
Hmm.
because you know what it's like.
Yeah.
You can't really watch the game if you got a camera in your hand. You can't, you're like,
You're
yes, you
kind
are
of seeing,
watching the
but then
game.
you're asking the other content creator,
What?
what was that flag for? I didn't see that because
Yeah,
I was,
I was
yeah.
over here for sure. So it is nice getting to just sit back and just be a parent and watch him do his thing. And our little girl, Mesa, she's just had her first year of, well, softball slash t-ball
Yeah.
last year, and that was about like herding cats, but it was
I
fun.
can see that.
Yeah,
I feel that way just with 3 kids in Sunday school
yeah,
class. Like, so I can't imagine a whole team of girls
yes,
that age.
yes,
So
yeah,
that's exciting. So you grew up in
yeah.
sports. So Brownwood, the school was probably a lot smaller than when you were there than it is now.
Right, yeah, because we were actually 4A whenever I was.
Okay.
Yeah, we were 4A. Then I think they went down to 3 for a couple years. Then they went up. Then they're 4AD, big school, big 4A.
Division One.
Yeah, and then um, I think this because we were thinking that Brownwood and Brock were going to get to play each other again, and I was honestly rooting for it, and I was hoping it was going to happen. But anyways, the
The
districting, yeah,
districting.
didn't.
Yeah.
However,
It was
it
some
didn't happen.
interesting redistricting this year.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
um, definitely, our district lost one team, which of course they went up.
With Eagle Mountain,
Yeah, with Eagle Mountain, and we got another team to play instead.
Iowa
And
Park, yeah,
yeah, Iowa Park. So it'll be an interesting
yes,
district for us as we go into
yeah, for
that.
sure, yeah,
But so Brownwood, you went to high school
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Um, your high school sweetheart,
yes, yeah.
Krista, you married.
I
Yeah,
did.
going on 14 years now.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah, I know,
don't
right?
worry, I researched it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't cut this part out.
yeah, I know, right?
But going on 14 years, married your
Yeah,
high school sweetheart, and eventually moved to Brock, where you've
yeah,
now got your family settled.
right. Yeah. So with my once we both graduated from Tarleton, I took a victory lap, but
I would.
Tarleton, and yeah, I took a victory lap and got my job with the USDA, and they sent us to Corsicana. We were there for like 2 years, and then it was back whenever they told you like, hey, your next job's here, like you got to go.
You got to move no matter
And
what.
yeah, and then they sent us to Vernon up near the Red River, just west of Wichita Falls, and we were there for about 5 years. And then a job opportunity came open in Weatherford at our zone office, and anyways, put in for that. But it's crazy, tying all this in. How we were talking earlier, how God works, and anyways, we were in Vernon, and some job opportunities came up just as far as relocation within
Hmm.
my same job, and I think one was in Comanche, one was in Brady, and
Oh, I'm glad you chose Brock over
well, the thing
Brady.
was, no, but I put in for those, and anyways, I got shut down on both of them, and I was just like, man, like I know that I was a shoe in for this. I'm like, why did I not get this? Because Vernon, we were so far away from home, being Brownwood. You know, we're
Yeah,
both
you're
from
from your
there.
families.
Yeah, we're both from there, and you know, from when we wanted, we just had Bradis at the time. We were like, you know, we want to just be closer to cousins and grandparents, and
Most
uh,
definitely.
you know, just to be there for life events and you know anything else. And both those locations would have been, you know, dramatically closer to Brownwood, anyways. Neither of those jobs panned out, and I was just like, I was really down in
You're
the
like
dumps. And
staying in Vernon.
yeah, and I mean, we had some, we still have, I mean, lifelong friends that we made there, and you know, moving there, we're just like, oh my gosh, man, what are we doing here? And then by the time, you know, by year 5, it's just like, you know, you met these people that are pretty much like family now. And it was not an easy decision to move there from there by any means, but we met some just great people. And then, anyways, those 2 jobs didn't work out that I put in for. And then one, I remember it was a few months after that, I actually got a call from a friend of mine that works where I'm at now, and I hadn't talked to him in a few years, and he was like, "Hey, what would you think about possibly putting in for this position in Weatherford?" And it's a little bit bigger job. It's over multiple counties, and it was a bigger job than what I was actually putting in for. And I was like, "Man, I'm not qualified for that." And he was like, he goes, "Actually, the way they run it, you know, not getting the specifics. He's like, you know, the way they're running it, he's like, you would." And I was like, man, I hadn't really thought about it. I said, let me go home and visit with Krista about it. And anyways, got home and I was like, hey, what would you think about me putting in for this job in Weatherford? And she was like, wow. She's like, I guess. I mean, she's like, yeah, I mean, why not?
And it's closer to
Yeah, it
Brownwood
was
than Vernon.
closer to Brownwood, and anyways, it just, I mean, everything like fell into place, and the person that the hiring official didn't even, that person knew me and knew my work and all that kind of stuff just within that job. And she was like, hey, I'm not even gonna interview. She was like, I just want to offer you the job. And I was like, wow. So as I was stressing out about interviews and all this stuff, and she's like, you know, it's yours if you want it. And I was like, absolutely. And then anyways, we both kind of found out at the same time together, and it was really cool. You know, now we're here, and you know, I think about, you know, how I've excelled in or just progressed and grown in that job, but then it also gave me a platform within my video stuff
Mm-hmm.
to like, God has put these people in my life that, you know, our paths wouldn't have crossed had we not been here.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, the friends, and you know, the friends that we've made here, you know, we'll have them for the rest of our lives.
It's a
And
good community.
oh,
You
for
can
sure.
make some really great friends here.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And we had looked at a few places, and then I remember once we came to Brock, we're like, yeah, we want to be here. I mean, it's a great place to raise a family. Sports are, you know, sports is a big thing, but just the people, and you know, being smaller, and because
yeah,
us, you know, going to smaller schools, we wanted to do the same with our
with your
kids.
kids. Yeah.
And it's, you know, obviously it's close to Brownwood, so the grandparents can come
Yeah,
up and
just
family. And
easy couple hours versus a half a day of
absolutely.
driving each direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually just came from there today, so it was pretty handy.
Okay, so
Yeah.
day off, kids out of school, government
Yes.
office closed.
Yeah.
So, what's really neat, you know, you both went to Tarleton. Both my kids
Yes.
went to Tarleton.
Uh-huh.
So, it's a really neat agricultural
Absolutely.
school. And you went for biology
Yes. Yeah, that
and
was my, yeah, so I made my actual major was in wildlife management, and then I minored in biology.
biology.
And anyways, because you know, at first early on, I was like, man, I just want to go because I'm a huge outdoorsman, hunting and fishing.
I've
And
seen some of the hunting and fishing pictures as
yeah,
I,
if you've seen any of my
went
stuff, you've
through.
probably seen some
Yeah.
hunting and fishing photos and videos. But um, yeah, I mean, that was another big part of our family. I mean, my mom and dad, you know, were carrying me on their hip to go, you know, deer hunting or
Mhm.
whatever it was back in the day, and that was just such a big part of my life. And yeah, that was just
So
a
that
big
was kind of
part.
something you wanted to incorporate job wise, kind of with wildlife
Yes,
management. And
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And because I was thinking, I was like, man, maybe I want to go and manage a big game ranch or something
uh,
someday. And then anyways, one of my friends actually got an internship with the same branch of the USDA that I'm under, and I was like, man, that sounds like a pretty cool job. You get to go work on a bunch of cool different places,
Yeah.
and anyways, one thing led to another, and did an internship with them, and then they guarantee if you get in that internship, they guarantee you a job when you graduate.
Oh,
That's
that's
how
nice.
that's how it works back then,
That's
and
nice. I kept telling Taylor when, because he did digital media for
right,
communications, get an internship, get an internship. But
yeah,
what, I'm just mom. What do
yeah,
I know?
for sure, yeah, for sure, and but yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things in it all, and I mean, we can circle back to it all, how it all kind of works together. But having her in my corner, my wife, has been the biggest blessing of it all. Just to um, as a supporter, encourager, things to uh, get me off my butt and get in gear to actually do it. Because there was times, um, I'm, I don't know how you want to do this as far as um, with me getting interested in cameras and all that kind of
Well,
stuff. But
we're gonna kind of jump
yeah,
into it. I mean, the next step is gonna be media. We
yeah,
talked about some sports, we've talked about life, and you've got I would say getting into cameras probably came about through wildlife, seeing some of
yeah,
the
absolutely.
older pictures that were that you'd posted to social
Yeah,
media. Um, I know for me, cameras started early, like
yes,
junior high, and then my degree is also biology in the environmental section. So I'm the one that everybody loves to hate. I was not anymore,
right,
but
right,
and a minor in vet, so I know a little bit about a lot of things,
right,
but not a lot about any one thing.
right, right, for sure.
So, but you went the soil management. Now you're
Correct.
doing soil management and
Right. Yeah,
crop
it's just
production.
right. Correct. Yeah, my title is I'm an agronomist, so deal a lot with soil health, looking at soil tests, coming up with nutrient recommendations, for
Okay.
fertilizer, and from coastal to
Do you do anything
you know
with like reclamation
no, not so much
or just more
reclamation. Yeah,
crop?
because the branch of the USDA that I'm under, we're non-regulatory, so everything that
Oh,
we do
okay.
is, strictly voluntary for the people, producers that want to work with us.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
that's my
Nobody wanted to work with us. And I was an independent, but
right,
the stuff we
right,
did, nobody wanted to work with us.
yeah,
So
for sure.
they were forced
Yes,
to.
yes,
So that's really great. So, how did you get into? I want to hit this before we start talking about your faith walk.
yeah,
So, how did you get into cameras and um, which eventually led to film? And
mm-hmm,
then
yeah,
in 2023, you started a media company
yeah.
called Next Ridge Media.
That's correct. Yeah, got my LLC then. Yep. Um, so I guess early, it's funny looking back. I remember it was a few years ago. We were me and Kristen, the kids were at my mom and dad's house, and they still live in the same house that I grew up in. And we're just looking through old photo albums. Back when you used
Hmm.
to get pictures printed, just
Printed and put
or
them
you
in
actually,
the.
you took them to
You took the film down.
whatever it was to
Yeah.
whatever the film store it was. Whether I don't think it was Walmart. It was some little mom
Whatever,
and
but
pop.
you drop it off and
Yeah,
you wait a week
wait
to
a
get them
yeah,
back.
or you could pay extra for an hour to get it back
Yeah.
sooner.
1 hour
And
development.
anyways, we were looking through, and I was like, man, we saw these pictures of these Christmas toys, and my mom, she was like, well, you were like, all we had were just disposable cameras back
Hmm.
then, and anyway, so I mean, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and like my Christmas presents that I would get for that year, I'd whether it was a RC car or truck, I'd go set it up and like take pictures of it. And I'm like, why I did that? Why I thought that would be something that I wanted to do, but it was just I always had a camera in my hand. And then I guess I was probably in junior high. My dad, he had an old Sony Handycam that he used to use whenever, because my dad, he guided hunts and stuff for other ranches around here.
Okay. Yeah.
And anyway, so I started taking it with me. It took the V or like mini tape, actual tape, that you
Yeah.
put in there. And so, anyways, me and my buddies, we were always hunting and fishing somewhere. And anytime we had free time, because my family, we had some land to go to and some other buddies' family land. So we're always getting into stuff, and I always had the camera in my hand because I just wanted to video whatever it was that we were doing.
Nice.
And So
Back before you could post it on the internet and get in
yeah,
trouble for all that stuff.
yeah, I know. There's probably there's definitely some
Shouldn't
silly
have
things on
recorded
there.
that because we can get in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. And anyways, I remember filming all of our hunts and fishing trips, taking photos, in between, and then I remember when like the little Canon Power Shots came out, and I was like, man, I really want one of those, and it's digital, and
Yeah.
anyway, so I remember getting one of those, and I always, I was probably wearing cargo pockets back then, and I could put it in my pocket, and I always had it with me, and had me a couple of SD cards and taking pictures of everything, and then anyways, I got my, I guess, first kind of real camera. I remember it was a Canon Rebel T2i, and back then I was just like, oh my gosh, I really got, I'm like, I made it now.
Yeah.
And
That's the camera everybody
yeah,
wanted, was the Canon Rebel.
yeah, because it was just it was a good, kind of introductory camera. And anyways, I remember taking it. Me and my dad actually went on a bear hunt to Canada one time. And anyways, I didn't know it at the time, but there was a guy there that he was actually a journalist for Iowa Sportsman magazine
Oh, that'd be
back in the
cool.
day. And anyways, I'd taken a ton of pictures from whenever we were in Canada on that hunt, and he wanted to see them. And he was like, "Hey, would you care if I use these in some of my publications?" I was like, "Sure." And anyways, long story short, it was like a year or two later. I remember getting a package in the mail, and it had like a little note, back on one of the pages, and I opened to it, and like there's all my photos, and he had written a story with all my photos in there, and I was like,
Wow,
"Oh
that's
my
pretty
gosh,
cool. You're
that's pretty."
published.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was like, "Man, that's really neat," and I really wasn't expecting that, but anyway, so got real big into you know just doing anything and everything, and I was doing stuff just for free on the side for people, and then I think one time I had a girl ask me to do her wedding photos, and I was like, oh, maybe like 50 or $100, I guess,
Oh, wow. I
and
should have hired you for my daughter's wedding.
yeah, and anyways, did that, and I did a few weddings, and I was doing like engagement photos and bridal photos,
Hmm.
and then for whatever reason, I remember started watching. I'd get because I'm still watch YouTube almost every single night, like trying to figure something out,
Yeah.
within the stuff that I do. And I was looking up, kind of, it was more like a wedding documentary guy. And anyways, this camera that he was using, I was like, man, I think that'd be cool to, I could offer that, to weddings. So I was like, man, I don't have to do these all the time, but they pay pretty good. And I was like, well, and I enjoyed doing it. I was like, I'm just gonna try my hand. Anyways, I saved up for a long time, and I got a Sony A7S II, and then I was like, man, it don't get any better than that. I was like, this is
And then you met Tommy and
yeah.
realized how
So
much better it can
yeah, I know,
get.
right? So, and then I started getting pretty heavy in the wedding side of things, and it's funny.
That's brave. I mean, to
Yeah,
be a wedding photographer, I think you have to be
yeah,
brave.
and now that I think about being in high pressure situations with the camera, and you only get one shot at it, and like at the time I didn't really think about it, you know
Yeah.
or I really didn't put that pressure on myself, but I was learning, teaching myself to like have like a mental, checklist, so to speak, of like, being in the right spot at the right time,
Hmm.
you know making sure your batteries are good, you got room on your SD
Don't run.
card,
Yeah. Yeah.
all your settings are dialed in, and
Don't
all
want to
these
have to
other
tell the
things.
bride, oh,
Yeah,
sorry, batteries all died.
yeah, yeah, because you get one. I'm like, hey, do you mind going hurry back and doing y'all first kid?
Walk back down the aisle again.
Yeah, and anyway, so I did quite a few weddings, and then um, not that I just got tired of it by any means, but there's just there's a few that it wasn't just an enjoyable experience.
That's why I'm afraid to even venture into that
Yeah, and
realm.
I don't want to like step on my foot saying anything bad by any means. It was just, I mean, it was great while I was in it for sure, uh, and then I really started getting into filming more of our hunts, and I was trying to make it more cinematic. I really started kind of figuring out my style, so to speak. And anyways, I would go and film our hunts in Colorado, elk hunting, and
I'm actually kind of jealous with all this hunt talk because I think since I moved back to Texas, I've only been able to hunt once.
really,
And coming down from Wyoming and having
yeah,
lived previously in Texas and hunted, it's just I'm like, huh, you have to
Right.
know somebody,
Right
you have to
now,
know
because
somebody.
there's it's not like out west where there's just public land
Yeah, up in
wherever you go.
Wyoming, we just
You just go out the back
go
door.
out.
Go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
practically, yeah, you can go out the back door
Yeah.
and hunt right off your back
I
porch
know.
as long as you have a tag. It's
Exactly.
crazy.
And yeah, so I started uh I kind of got in a rut there for a little bit though, honestly, because I started watching these YouTube videos of guys that I would follow, and it's like, man, I can't make my stuff look that good. Like, by that time, I was still using the same camera that I had, and probably been 5 or 6 years down the road, and I would shoot a bunch of stuff, but then I would never end up finishing editing it because I kind of had that imposter syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, man, I'm not good enough for that. Like, I can't make it look that good because I was like, I don't know if it was a fear of, you know, not that maybe anybody would say anything negative about it. I don't think it was that. It was just the standard that I had, I guess, for myself, but that I wanted to create, and it just like made me not even want to do it.
Like your vision of what you wanted the end product to
Right? And
be
I
was
couldn't.
not quite where
Yeah,
you're.
correct. Yeah, all the stuff that I see, online or whatever it is, and I was like,
I
man,
I admit I have that same problem.
yeah,
There's one photographer, and I will be interviewing her. I love her work.
uh
I
huh,
just love her work. And then we're on the field next to Tommy Hayes,
yeah,
who takes the whether it's sports or wildlife, he takes the
right,
most amazing
incredible.
pictures. And I always tell him, when I grow up, I'm
Yeah, I
gonna
want
be
to be.
you.
Yes, yeah. When I grow
Um,
up, I want to be Tommy.
I want to be
Yeah,
Tommy, and
yeah.
like, and I mean, he's been doing this way
Oh,
longer
for sure.
than either you or I combined, even.
Correct.
And I do. I feel the same way. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll go to post my pictures. I'm like,
But
these
then you
aren't good.
feel like
They're not good enough.
yeah, you feel that reservation in yourself,
Yeah.
but it's just self doubt,
And that's, when we get to talking about, that's where Christ
Oh,
actually, he's come in and been teaching me the biggest lessons of, I won't say my career because I haven't made a career out of it yet. You have to
right,
make money to survive to have a career.
right.
I mean, I make
Yeah,
enough money to feed my website.
yeah, for sure.
So, and get gas to the venues. That's about
Yes.
it. But God definitely will be playing a hand in that as we talk.
Oh,
But
yeah. Yeah, just that imposter syndrome, and then I'll never forget. I would film something. I think because I guess probably the first person, honestly, that kind of hired me to really make like scheduled content uh, was April Frierson with CrossFit Brock, and
Mhm.
I started doing.
She used to live right behind
Yeah,
me.
I
Yeah.
know, yeah, and yeah, whenever the box was there, and anyways, I would go and film some stuff, and it was just for me for fun at first, and I wanted to go up there, and then I was watching CrossFit videos. I was like, man, I know I could make some, and then I would make something, and I'd be like, no, that's not good enough, and then or I'd film it, and then I wouldn't even go in there to edit anything. And she was like, "Are you?" My wife, Krista, she's like, "Are you ever gonna go in there and do that?" She's like, "Nobody's ever gonna want to use you because you're not seeing it through." She's like, "What's it matter? Who cares? Like, that's just, I mean, just put it out there." And I'm like, I'm never forget. It was one night, and at first I was kind of like inside, I was like frustrated, and I was like, I'm just gonna go on there and do it. So I ended up, and I made the video and I put it out there, and it's not that, because I think you can get caught up in the likes and
Absolutely.
it,
100%. Who's
it's
following
like
you?
that's your base of what you think is successful or
Mm-hmm.
not. And and at that time, people were coming to you like, man, that video you did was awesome. And I was like, man, well, thank you. I didn't think it was that great. But what your vision is, you set a standard for yourself where you want to be, and when you're not there yet, internally you're like, that's just not good enough. But from the outside, everybody else is like, man, that's great work. And I think that was kind of like where it snowballed for me. It was a really pivotal moment because then at the end I was like, you know what? What does it? I'm just gonna start putting my stuff because she was like, just put your stuff out there. It don't
Even just
matter.
little clips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just do it. And then I remember April, after she built the new box, the new CrossFit Brock where it's at now,
Yeah.
and she kind of came to me. She's like, I want you to make some content for us, on a weekly or monthly basis or whatever. And we had a sit down meeting about it and kind of gave her price in mind. And then I think back to those times because I would go with my job, so mind you, I'm still doing
You're still doing
still to
your
this day,
regular
yeah, I'm still
job.
doing my regular job. And then so I would go. I think I would film 2 classes a week, and just so and I had to get different people though because she has different class times, but I
Yeah.
couldn't just film the same class time because it's
You
like,
still want
hey,
to show up at 5 a.m. every 5:30 a.m.
yeah. So I
every.
would go and film the 5 a.m. class. I'd get up at 4 something, go shoot, or have my work clothes in the truck with me, go to work, come home, edit. I do that once a week and
Yeah.
film a different class. And anyways, I did that for about a year or so, I think, with her. And I'm trying to think what and then I started getting into having people run. I don't think I had anybody ask me to do it. I was like, you know what, with the real estate stuff around here, um, I think that would be fun just for the fact that, if somebody tells me I can go and film something and then nobody even has to be there. Like I can go whenever I want
Yeah.
and it's just me and my camera and an empty house. And I remember kind of putting myself out there and because I didn't have anything on my portfolio yet, but I knew I could do it. And I was like, you know what? I said, I think I'm just going to maybe offer to go do a couple for free and just so I can have it on my portfolio and just see what happens. And anyways, we have some good friends, Kevin and Whitney Harris. They own KW Homes.
Okay.
And anyways, and I told her, I was like, hey, I don't know if y'all have one that you're finishing up or whatever, but if you do, I'd like to just come and shoot it for free, just so, and y'all can use it to however you want. And anyways, that one video, and then other people saw it, and Earl Bilber, he reached out to me, and I started doing some stuff with him, and
And he's very well known and well liked in the
oh,
community
for sure,
here.
yeah,
So,
he
I mean,
does
that's
it,
a great
yeah.
person to say, "Hey, come work, do some
Yeah,
work for me."
and I actually got to do some bigger projects with him, some ranches that he sold, and it was pretty cool just getting to have a hand in
You had a hand
seeing
in
it,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
seeing that through, and it was a product that he could give to people that were interested and all that, and then uh, my sports brain still, I'm still
Still in
wanting to.
there.
I'm still wanting to do that. And I remember when we first moved here, I guess it was right at the first of 2020. Yeah, we came looking, I guess it was in 2019, right? And then we closed on our house and on Valentine's Day of 20. And
In time for COVID to
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
lock you
yeah,
in.
I know, right? And anyways, but I remember going to the games and because I mean, we'd heard about Brock and knew, obviously there's
What a fanatic little town it was.
yeah, for sure. And but honestly though,
In a
because
good way.
yeah, for sure. And football was huge at Brownwood. I mean, it still is. But
It's
um,
every Texas
yeah,
town practically.
and anyways, football was just like I said, it was a huge part of my life. And we would always, we'd go to the games, and we really didn't know anybody. We'd made some friends. We'd go and watch the games, and as the years go on, you learn. It's like, man, this is a special program, and and then I was like, man, I'm never going to get an opportunity to film those varsity guys. And and then I think I did some I started doing some volleyball stuff,
Yeah.
and
And that's hard. That's hard to film,
oh man,
whether you're shooting film or
yeah, it made it,
photos. It's
yeah,
hard.
and honestly, it I think doing I did volleyball for I still do it from time to time when somebody reaches out to me, but I had a few girls' families approach me wanting to do some stuff, and I did, and anyways, filming that though, once I transitioned to football. Football was like a piece of cake because I'm tracking this ball and you have no idea where that thing's about to go. At least with football, you have at least an idea of
You
when the
can,
ball's in the air, it's like, okay, I know it's going to go right here.
yeah, you
Versus,
can
and a girl
zone
spiking
in
the
on it.
ball and setting it or
And the
what it
ball
digging
is
it.
taking a path. In volleyball, it's going up and down, spiked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and try to make that without people having a panic attack while they're watching the video. You know what I mean?
I
Everything over.
absolutely do. I got to film because Taylor couldn't film. I filmed some of the girls in Lipan one
Yes.
year, a couple times over, and I
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, I don't know that
Yeah.
this is my
Yeah, and I
area.
was intimidated at first, and I think it just ties into everything though is putting yourself in those situations, like just taking a deep breath and like, man, just go and do it, face your fears,
Face your
and just
fears.
go out there and do it. And I think within the last the 5 years, I've always been strong in my faith and all that, but I feel like I've just tried to really hone in on that and the doors that have opened through, you know, following God's will that I feel like He has for my life is it's just like, man, how could I have done it any other way? You know,
Yeah.
there's
The,
no other way. Trying to do it
you,
on your own.
you're seeing the pieces fall into place
Oh
that you never would have imagined.
yeah,
So, what made you decide to start Next Ridge Media?
yeah. So I had to because I remember initially I had a Facebook page and I remember I guess it was whenever in Vernon whenever I created it and I think I called it the Pool Media and I was like, man, you know, that's a but I didn't want people to think like, is he doing stuff with pools? But it was PULL because I wanted to
People
pull
in.
people in, and like that's my big like I always want somebody to feel something when they're watching what I create, you know. And I mean, don't I love making the highlights and all that, but whenever I can do stuff with stories and you know, and then I can play with the music and not so much not playing with people's emotions by any mean, but you know, really locking them in and just being, you know, by the end
But
of it,
the music's kind of what ties it together. It's
yeah,
like
for
watching a
sure.
movie without a soundtrack, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, for sure.
So,
And I'm trying to think where we were going with that. I'm
I
sorry.
asked when you had, what made you decide, and you were you started talking about Pull Media,
Yes, yeah, the
and
pull. I'm sorry, the pull media. And anyways, I did that, and obviously I wasn't, you know, it wasn't official as far as you know with the state or anything with the
yeah,
LLC. And then I think it was around that time that you know, not that me and her had to come to Jesus meeting by anything, but she kind of got me off in my butt and was like, "You need to get in there and do it."
do it.
Yeah,
Do it or don't do it.
yeah,
Make
do
up
it
your
or don't do
mind.
it. And I was like, you know what? You know, I was frustrated. I'll go in there and do it. And anyways, I did it and, you know, saw it through and it was kind of like you know, I got to take a deep breath and be like, okay, I just need to start doing that on a consistent basis and start putting some things out there and just see what happens. And, you know, slowly but surely, you know, you look back and it's, you know, where I thought I'd be now, you know, versus back then, I'm like, man, I'll never be able to get to do that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's just a step by step by step process. And you look back, and before you know it, you're like, man. And I'm not. I've tried. You know, I'm a humble person. I don't like bragging on myself whatsoever. I'm not boastful or anything like that. And I'm not trying to say I've made it to the pinnacle or anything like. You know,
But you can
you get
see
what
the
I'm saying?
progress
Yeah,
you've made.
yeah. And I
I would,
just look back, and it's a good feeling knowing that it's like, man, what I said I was going to do and what I felt like God has been calling me to do. And I feel like I've, you know, tried to, you know, listen to intuition, AKA Holy Spirit, and
yeah.
guiding me, you know, down this path. And I just felt like I was, man, I need to really, if I want to really make, because I felt like God was calling me to, you know, really start using my gift, so to speak, to, um, you know, not hide it, you know, because I mean, He's given me a gift
And how can you
and a
improve on it if you're
yeah,
not using it?
exactly. And God's not going to bless something, you know, as far as somebody being idle, you know, with idle hands
Yeah.
and anyways, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna just go ahead and do it. And I was like, but I'm not set on that name, and because I was like, man, I'm not gonna be going back and forth. Like once I pick this name, like it's
This
gonna
is
be
it.
it. And anyways, I have some notes on here for why I named it that. And if you're cool with me reading off my
Yeah,
phone,
go for
yeah.
it. Go for it.
And
I mean,
yeah, because we were going back and forth, and I was asking her. I can't remember what some other ones were that we had talked about. I remember I had a huge. I could probably come back and find the list, but um, anyways, this is kind of long, but it kind of encompasses, um, you know, the meaning behind it. So for one, you know, I love the outdoors. You know, which
yeah.
you know that was you know, where you know, it kind of ties into like my childhood and growing up hunting, fishing, you know, just a, you know, ridge associated with mountains. Like I love being in the
What's over
mountains
on
and
the next ridge, even?
exactly. So, and I'll read this off and like I said, feel free
Yeah,
to use this
no,
or
no,
not,
read it,
but
read it. I think it's
yeah,
important. It's part of your journey.
yes. So an extra media comes from the understanding that anything worth pursuing requires a climb. The climb brings resistance, uncertainty, and effort. But once you reach one ridge, there's always another ahead. There's always more to learn, more to improve, and more ground to explore. The name reflects both growth and obedience. I believe God has called me to pursue this work and to use the talents and gifts He's given me, not for myself alone, but to impact the people I come into contact with. Without Him, none of this is possible. Walking in God's will doesn't mean the path is easy. Resistance will come from outside sources, but those moments are often what God uses to redirect our focus back to Him. They remind us that we don't win battles on our own. If something is truly a part of God's plan, He will bring it to completion. But we are still called to show up, work diligently, and move forward in obedience. Climbing to the next ridge means trusting God's direction even when we can't see what's on the other side. It's the pursuit of excellence, growth, and purpose, step by step, believing that where He's leading is worth the climb. And
That's amazing. I mean, I
and
how can you say to anybody you can't?
anyways, that to me, once I and I thought about that name, and I was like, man, what's going to happen next? And but that's the thing. It's there's all you think back because I always like listening to like some of the great athletes like Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, all those guys. Because I mean, I remember watching Michael Jordan and Kobe whenever I was young, and Kobe Bryant. He always used to talk about how you need to fall in love with the process. Because
Yeah.
you get to that pinnacle. Winning however many NBA championships that he did, and you hear all these Deion Sanders, all those guys back in the day, and then like they get there, and it's like, man, this isn't what I thought this would be more than what it
It
is.
is.
Like I just reached the pinnacle of this
I'm
sport,
at
the
the
best.
top,
Yeah,
and
I'm at the top, and it's like, man, I don't. I still have like this hole. Like I thought that this was going to fill that void, so to speak. But
that's the reason I started this podcast is for the athletes,
yeah,
for that specific
yeah,
reason to influence our younger athletes
absolutely.
with that thought.
Yeah, and Kobe Bryant, I think he gave a speech one time where he talked about you need to fall in love with the dream. The dream is in the journey, not the destination. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
that
The whole
pinnacle.
experience.
Yeah, it's if you can fall in love with the process. That's one thing that I've tried to be mindful of is being having gratitude and be grateful in the moment, like during season of and I don't even know what that pinnacle would be to say, like, once I got here, like, oh, yeah, finally, like, I can stop. You know what I mean? So, even though it's like hard in that moment, um, I mean, once you can learn to appreciate being, having the opportunity to be in that moment, like, that's a God given gift that, He's put you here and you need to find joy and, you know, not that that's where my purpose is alone, but my purpose is,
With
um,
one of the gifts he's given you
giving
is
you,
to
yeah,
develop it.
absolutely, and
I mean, we're often given many things that we
yeah,
have to work through from him, and
absolutely,
that's just one.
and then I've fallen back to where feeling like God's calling me to do some do the video side of things. I remember the Brock was doing their FCA breakfast, and I was like, man, you know what? I said I think that would be a great opportunity for me to document this, and who knows, it may touch some other kids' lives, from
Yeah.
seeing this event, hearing Law speak at that, and some of the I can't remember the other guest speaker he had there. Um, I did that short little deal, and then I did the Meet the Eagles, and that's kind of when Billy rolled out with Be the Light. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, that is all. And then I could really just
And you
I
actually saw that within the team this
oh,
year. For the first time, I really saw that within the team.
and it starts at the top, and truly seeing Billy lead those kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from that moment, because during that Meet the Eagles, where they do the workout in front of
Yeah.
their fans and everything,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go out there and do that one too, just to put it out there. And then they kind of have the FCA deal after that. And anyways, it was a great message, and Billy told them that it was Be the Light and what that meant. Of we're not just raising or trying to create good football players, but these kids are going to be a light beyond football and off the field, and it wasn't just for show for him to have a you know fancy slogan, or a team motto for the season.
He
And
lives it, and
oh,
it's really evident when you talk to him and you watch
yeah,
him.
1,000. And there's times even in that I didn't even put in the videos, but um, just how he carried himself throughout the season, how the example he was setting for those kids. Um, I mean, being God first and everything, and anyways, it just
Well, and you get different access to him too,
yeah,
because you get to go into the locker room
yeah,
at times and hear him talking to the young men. That's not a place
you're
I
right,
get to go,
right,
nor do I want to.
right,
But so I mean, you get to hear him, and I
yeah,
can't imagine, based on just the times that I do talk to him, that it would
yeah,
be any
oh yeah,
different.
yeah, and it's, I mean, it's moving. You know, I'm just the camera guy in the back. You know,
And you're like,
he's not
yes.
talking to me, but I'm like, man, that's powerful stuff. You know, but it was because that motto that they had, that they kept at the center and the top
Everything.
of everything, and even the things that they would do with they did the Eagle Spectrum stuff with the
Hmm.
special needs kids, and showing
Yes.
giving back to, and showing where you can find joy in giving. And
They've done community service projects out
yeah,
at the cemetery and stuff, and I've
absolutely.
seen that, and
And
it's amazing.
yeah, and I got more, um, you know, I got more just out of, being around them, was a blessing just to, hear some of those talks, and, the good things that he was speaking into those kids. Like, I mean, it's just power, it's
We
just
need more
powerful and moving.
men like that. We need
Yeah.
more coaches. I can't say that there aren't other coaches. I know for sure of one that is just like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I know there are also football coaches that aren't like that.
Right.
And
Yeah. And
I've seen the players
yeah.
as the result of that. And I really wish we had
Yeah. And I, yeah.
more.
Cause I mean, even whenever I played, like some of the, I mean, I had some really great coaches, but then, you always have, there's more than one coach on a football team. But whenever they're all aligned like they are
Hmm.
and everything, as far as being the light, I had different coaches growing up, and in junior high and high school, and that's not the case everywhere, by any means, but
Yeah.
you can truly feel that God's using him, and his what he's
He's-
what he's given him to be a steward of.
Yeah. And I know I've told it before to other people I've interviewed. My first introduction to him, he had just been hired. I wasn't really
Yeah.
introduced to him,
Uh-huh.
but it was in my daughter, so it was spring, so it was before his
Uh-huh.
first football year.
Mm-hmm.
And we were off to, I don't remember, I think we want to say regionals, and he had us all, just the ones that were left, all circle up and pray, and he
Yeah.
led in prayer. And I looked over at Tori Tyler's mom, Stacy, and I'm like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
Because we had
Yeah.
Coach Worrell,
Uh-huh.
and turns out, he's the new football coach. I'm like, he's leading the track team in prayer before we even get on the bus. I was like, Stacy and I were crying.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this might be something really good
Yeah.
for the school, the community, the players.
Yeah. And then, you think about it from a player sense, but then, us being parents, that gives you a good feeling of knowing that, that's what I want my kids, being involved in to get that type of.
Well, think about how much time your sports, how much time you
Yeah.
spent with your coaches as an athlete. I mean, that was my whole
Yeah.
time when I was an
Exactly.
athlete. I was around my coach, and to have that kind of coach pouring into you or your kids,
Yeah.
that's exactly what you want.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah. You couldn't
is.
ask for anything
So
better, for sure.
So you
Um,
got Next Ridge Media going based on all
yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
I've gotten to see it grow, and
Yeah.
especially this year. I mean,
Yeah.
you did so much for the football team. It was just
Yeah.
spectacular, and
Oh, thank
I have
you.
to say that end video, that
Yeah.
last season ending video. I mean, you said you wanted to tell a story,
Yeah.
and I think you reached that. You told
Yeah.
a
Thank you.
story, and it got
Thank you.
the emotional reaction out of people that it was meant
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, for sure. Because I wanted, I mean, the highlights and everything are great, but and it wasn't. It's easy to tell stories as far as even in the sports world. Whenever, as far as adding drama or things, whenever you have a lull, or a low point,
Yeah.
and I was just like, man, this team didn't really experience I think the first time their backs are kind of against the wall was against Greenwood.
Greenwood,
It
yeah.
was tied 14-14 going into the half. And but I was like, man, how else can I, make this interesting and engaging other than just watching a bunch of touchdowns, And then I
And you
thought,
did.
did the interviews with Bobby, and kind of wanted to, one voice kind of narrating it throughout, And 'cause I knew kind of what I wanted. I came up with the questions, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to put all this together, but I know like I can make something with all this. The questions that I had, and setting things up through those interviews to lead into something else as far as transitioning and stuff with I did at least an interview with all the seniors, and
That was a really great part too. So
thank you.
it really
I appreciate,
was.
and it was fun. That was out of anything. I say the season was you know the most challenging, rewarding thing, but if I had to put it on one video, it would be that one. When you're going through, 16 weeks of footage, or even counting the preseason stuff, the scrimmages and all that, and then the
Yeah.
culmination of work putting all that together to tell us one story for the season. That was I spent so many sleepless nights, literally. I mean, putting that thing together, and
Well, you're at a time crunch because you have to
yeah,
have it for the banquet.
yeah, exactly. And then, anyways, whenever we got it up finally, I got it all together, and we got to play it there at the season banquet, and I don't think there was a dry in the house, and I was like, man, that was I
That's
got
when
yeah,
you hit the bullseye.
yeah, for sure. So it was fun getting to see it. You know, everybody's first reaction for the first time getting to see something, because when you put stuff out there, you don't ever get to see what people's reactions are. They come to
Yeah.
you after the fact, like, man, that like
But when you're at the banquet and you see it,
see it, yeah, and you see people's reactions, and I mean that made it. That was
that's kind of the whole reason I liked going to the banquet was to watch when they did
yeah,
Taylor's video so I could see how
yes,
people reacted
reacted to
to
it.
it.
Yeah, so it was fun being in that moment, and anyways, I'll never forget after, I told Krista this, and it was after the Carthage game, and I was thinking, I was like, man, that was the last one, and anyways, we got back to the field house, and I filmed those bits where Billy and Blake and Jordan they gave them that one kind of last talk in the locker room, after
Yeah.
that Carthage game, after they were back at Brock, and filmed that, and I was like, man, I was getting choked up hearing them, talking to them, and then I remember getting in my truck, just load my stuff up, and the blue lights were on at the
Mhm.
deal, and I was and I was sitting there, and I was like, man, like this is, I mean, this is the last one. Like, my routine is done with for
For
the
the
year and all
yeah.
that. But then I had a feeling of just gratitude that God had put me in that spot, and I was like, man, like I didn't think that I could do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
and you did and you made
yeah,
it you pulled it all together and I know that I was at a softball game a couple weeks ago and the blue lights were on. So I went up there and snapped a bunch of
yeah,
photos and it was just really weird. The lights
yeah,
are kind of on, but
right.
there's
And
it's
nobody, yeah,
empty. It's empty. It was such a weird feeling. It was so expansive
yeah,
and you know, I'm excited because I love football. I love
yeah,
shooting football, but I also have had so much fun doing the baseball and softball. So,
yes,
and that season's, arrived. So I'm
yeah,
super
for sure,
excited to be in the
yeah,
dugout with those young men and women.
absolutely,
And, but that was kind of, it's one of those things. As football's winding down, you're looking forward to baseball and softball, and
yeah.
as that's winding down, you're like, okay, when's football season start
I know,
again?
right? Yeah, and so going back to that moment, I was just, it wasn't like a thing like, look at me, look what I did. It was like, I mean, I just felt, I was like, man, I just prayed. I was like, God, thank you for allowing me to be able to do this, and use my gifts and talents that He's given me to, hopefully the people that I've come in contact with, that I had a positive impact on them, and they, saw the light in me, and and that hopefully one of these days that me possibly planting a seed with somebody, or you know even the guys that I mentored on the football team, I'd always send them a verse, and
Mm-hmm.
something leading up to that game that at the time you think it might not be that impactful, but I would
Yeah.
just always try to speak words of encouragement into them, and try to do it, faith based, to where, don't lean, don't put all that pressure on yourself. Like, I mean, go out there and play fast and free. God
Put in the
puts you,
effort,
yeah,
but
put in that effort, but don't put that added pressure on yourself, because I mean, you're here for a reason. God's got you here, and He's got your back, and don't worry
do,
about anything
yeah.
else.
100%.
and you know, so I was, you know, like I said, I love being around the game, love being around the guys, and you know, getting to use my gifts and talents in that way. Because I feel like I would be doing a disservice and not following God's will for my life if I, because I mean, it's one of those things when you wake up, you know, every night that I go to bed and every day when I wake up, it's always on my mind, you know. And I've visited with Krista about it before, and it's
Well,
like,
it's a good thing you have her to push you to
yeah,
do what you need to be doing.
absolutely, yeah. But the other thing is too, I wouldn't be able to get to do what I,
Or kicking you to out
yeah,
the door to do it.
yeah, and I wouldn't have the even option to do what I do if it wasn't for her. Just you know, handling stuff with the kids if I'm you know leaving to go out of town to film a away game
And
or
that's
what.
hard because you've got young kids.
Yeah,
So,
and I would you know I'd still you know would always try to prioritize. You know, I was you know never miss anything of my kids and you know spend time with them when I get home and you know so then whenever they go to bed that's whenever you know my brain turns on and start editing. You know,
yeah.
I'm either you know on the couch or you know in the bed with my laptop editing. You know, with my headphones on and but then once I got in that, because at first I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And, but through that whole season, it showed me, I was like, man, what I thought was like my threshold for, you know, what I could, you know, do in a time, you know, in a day's time. Um, you know, I kind of opened the door to that, you know, as a mentally just showing like, hey, you still got more in the tank to give.
It's a good
And
thing you're young.
right.
In my age,
Yeah,
you're
I
like,
know.
okay, it's 8 o'clock. It's
Yeah.
bedtime. I have nothing left in the tank.
Right. And no, there's definitely times though where she would come in there and I'd be like, have my laptop like this, and I'm, you know, just on the couch and like come to bed and
Come to bed, babe. It's
yeah,
time.
it's time, yeah. So, but it was just this one year, just I guess if I had to sum it all up, it would just be growth for sure. Um, you know, not only just in my work, but through my faith for sure, and not trying to do it all myself by any means. Um, and I feel like he's blessed me by you know following the plan that he's had for my
Yeah.
life, and I know he's not done with me yet because um, there's for instance, like I know you've interviewed Meech before,
Mm-hmm.
and you know I can't remember when the first time that we met them was, but I remember the first time I was around him and. Man, we just hit it off, and I was like, man, I
Well, I
remember
mean, if
telling
you're
her,
talking sports or faith, you're going to hit it
yeah,
off with him pretty
oh,
well.
absolutely. And I was just, me and him, we talked forever. And I was just like, man, I told him, I was like, you make me want to be a better person.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
I was like, those are the kind, you know, and I prayed about that all the time. Like, God, you know, take away the people that you don't want in my life and put the people in my life that you want, you know, me surrounded with. And, you
Like
know,
the iron sharpens iron
oh,
kind of
yeah,
people.
1,000%. You know, what do they say? You know, you're the average of the five people that you spend your most
Yeah.
time with, and you think
Choose
about,
wisely.
yeah, choose wisely. Yeah, you know, it's either people bettering themselves, trying to push the envelope, you know, pushing that needle to get better every day, or just staying stagnant and getting left in the dust. You know, and then you look up and you're like, dang, I ain't done nothing. You know, or
Yeah.
you could be around people that are, you know, encouragers. You know, um, people that aren't just satisfied with being mediocre. And I'm not saying that you got
Well,
to
and then
be a
people that have love, love for others, love for what they're doing, love for
yeah.
what you're doing, and push you to do that.
Yeah. And even this was even before I got the opportunity to do the stuff with the football team. And I remember Meech and Lindsay putting out that deal for the elite camp that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I'll never forget. I was editing something, and just like, man, I would love because I know he was going to have some other NFL guys there with him and all that. And I was like, man, I would love the opportunity to get to go and film something like that. Now, and I'm not going to be like, hey, do you care if can I come and do that? You know what I mean? I'm not going to
Yeah.
be
You
that
don't want to take
guy.
advantage of the friendship,
Yeah, no, yeah, well, that for sure. Yeah, and I'm
but
not just going to go and be like, can I please come and do this for you? And I was like, you know what? If it's God's will, you know, it'll happen. And literally, probably 3 minutes after we had that conversation,
you got the notification.
and anyways, it was Lindsay, and she was like, "Hey, what what would you think about filming that for us?" And I was just like, and we had just had that conversation. I was like, "Wow, like it's I mean, if that's not God, I don't know what
What
is."
Well, let's
And
transition with
yeah,
that. Okay. So, and that's the whole reason I mean, I point blank asked you,
yeah,
do you have a strong faith walk one night at a basketball
yeah,
game?
yeah.
Let's talk about your faith. I mean, we've talked a little bit about your
Hmm.
life, and we're talking definitely about the media. And I mean, to do what you do too, you have to have some strong faith, because I've got
Yeah,
pictures of you nearly being clobbered on the
yeah,
football field. And that's one of my
yeah.
things. I love taking pictures of the other
No, and I appreciate
content
that.
creators, and I've got some cool pictures
Yeah,
of you out there. But luckily, God was watching over you and you
yeah,
weren't landed on.
yeah. No, for sure. Yeah,
but I want to transition into your faith walk
yeah.
as it led through all those stages that we've already talked
Hmm.
about. Did you grow up in a home that was a Christian based home?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I can remember going to church from. I mean, as young as I can remember. I mean, I grew up in the church. Like I
Okay.
was, I went to Coggin Avenue Baptist Church in Brownwood, and anyway, that's where. I mean, I would guess I was brought up pretty much in there. I guess I got saved, asked God to come in my life and be my Lord and Savior when I think I was 9 years old.
Wow.
Got baptized, and anyways, I've always done stuff with the church, like even through high school and stuff. We were always doing stuff. I would go on the church ski trips and do all that stuff,
Church
and
camp
yeah,
and all
church
the.
camps. They had, I think at the time it was called Sundays Camp, Super Summer, and all those deals. I'd always go to those church camps, and I mean, God's always been a big part of my life. But I think the more that I've matured and grown just as a person, um, there's ebbs and I'm not trying to say, well, I've been a little church boy my whole life. I'm just perfect. I've
Never
definitely,
sinned.
yeah. And I mean, there's times, and I remember my first semester of college, I didn't take care of business. Going to school and all that, and I was like, man,
You're out on your own for your first
yeah.
time, and
And then it's
it's
kind of
kind
like
of
a
a
wake
new
up call. I
world.
was like, you know what, I need to get my act together. Not that I was getting in trouble by any means, but or doing bad things. I just wasn't taking care of business school wise, and
Yeah.
focusing on my schoolwork and anyways, that was a big kind of, well, for one, she came to Tarleton, and that was a
And she's probably like, okay, you need to fix this.
yeah.
Like,
So
because I think
yeah,
she's like the boss.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. What do you say? I'm the boss, but she picks out the pants.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
kind of.
wear the
Yeah.
pants. You
She
wear the
can't.
pants,
I
but
wear the
she picks
pants,
them
but she
out.
picks them out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, but uh, yeah.
So
Go
when
ahead.
you were in high school, then, okay, so you had a Christian walk in high school.
Hmm.
How did that play with sports in high school? Like, was that a hard walk? I know because I had somebody that played here in
Uh
Brock,
huh.
was not a Christian, started coming to church,
Uh huh.
became a Christian, and I asked him one day about it.
Hmm.
And he said it was like bipolarism, talking about the change that
Yeah.
he's seen in himself, but
Yeah.
his actions, but also in the way the people on the team were at the time.
Hmm.
And because every team's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think
but it just, yeah, there was, he
right.
said he just, it was really bipolar to him. And I
Right.
was wondering, like, for you, did you have a different walk in high school than other kids that you
Yeah, no,
played
I
with?
definitely did. And I like thinking back, you asking that, like I can remember moments where, um, because there's guys on the team. There's guys that fly off the handle, and you always have different dynamics within a team. Not everybody's a Christian. Not everybody's brought up the same way in the same
Yeah.
house, knowing yes or no, or just manners in general, and but I can remember kind of being excluded almost from certain groups just
Yeah.
because of um,
It,
but I mean, look, at the time though, I was like, man, I'm not getting invited to go hang out on the weekends with some of those guys, or whatever, like guys that I thought were my friends, but they
your
knew they were
teammates and
like,
friends,
yeah,
and
but they knew that
you're not going to,
I wasn't about that, so they knew that they're like, well, there's no point in bringing him because he won't even want to do some of the stuff that we're doing, you
which
know.
they know is wrong, but
Yeah, but yeah, and like I said, I'm not saying that I feel like I was a pretty good kid growing up. I mean, I guess my dad put the fear of God in me, but um,
But
I
you
mean, I
had
had
you
great parents
a
for
walk that stood out.
yeah, for
Obviously,
sure.
if you were being
And I felt like even back then, like it's almost thinking back now, then how I wasn't afraid to like whether it was inviting somebody to come to church with me, even come to Wednesday night, youth service or whatever it was, you know, if I felt like God was calling me, like I was like, hey man, why don't you come to church with me? I'd have guys shut me down. Um, but I can really remember guys, kind of somewhat avoiding me, so to speak. But um, like in the moment, it kind of hurt me. But as you get older and you look back, and it's like, man, well, that was a blessing that I wasn't getting involved in that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm.
And but I mean, I walked the. I mean, not just 100%, but I walked the straight and narrow pretty much in high
Yeah.
school, and I wasn't out.
Well,
You
you were
know,
involved with your church
oh,
and stuff, and that keeps
absolutely,
you busy too, on
yeah,
top of sports.
yeah, for sure. Because you think back to I feel like I'm not one of those that has just like a super just powerful testimony, so to speak. You know what I mean? But I think God uses people in different ways. In different upbringings. Um, you don't have to have just a I was addicted to drugs and I was on my last leg. You know what I mean?
And then had this
It's
miraculous
yeah,
intervention. Yeah.
you know what I mean. But I feel like there's everybody gets brought up differently, but you can relate to different people in different ways because maybe I'm not like that guy, but this guy that I visited with and even prayed with, he may be more likely to listen to me than someone like that, even though I didn't have a bad childhood growing up or anything like
Yeah.
that. Um,
So your identity wasn't wrapped up in your sport, and it
right.
wasn't wrapped up in.
Yeah, and I think there was times though that I probably, looking back, that I probably put it, before God at times because I was so wrapped up in wanting to be like the best that I could be,
Mm-hmm.
and but then the older you get, the more you realize it's like my identity does not need to be whatever the sport that I'm playing. My identity doesn't need to be, even now, my identity doesn't need to be videographer. Like my identity needs to be I'm a child of God that is using these
100%
gifts and talents that He's given me to
to do
grow His
videography.
kingdom through His
Yeah.
gifts and talents. And
And I think that's what a lot of young people, and I've seen it happen at even from the high school to college age, their whole identity is their
yeah,
sport or their activity. And
yeah,
when something happens, they get injured and then they can't do it anymore,
yeah, and
or
like
it's ripped
yeah.
away and they're lost. Some of them do slide down into drugs and
Yeah,
depression.
because
And
that was their identity. That's where they put their whole, I mean, life into that one thing. But the thing is, if you don't, if you make God your identity,
that's just a
it,
part of what you get to do, not who
yeah,
you
that's not who
are.
you are for sure. And when you have that as your identity, I mean, it's a loss is just is, and it's not a failure. It's a learning opportunity. And I know that sounds corny and cliche, but it is
Because nobody
because
likes to lose,
yeah,
but it is an
yeah, and
opportunity.
I'm super competitive, and I'm probably have the mindset of, uh, I'm not just going to accept that I can't do something like
Yeah.
that fact. Like I'm going to work and work and
Well,
work.
I've got
Like
a
I'm
new
not.
challenge for you.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
of those.
I know, right? And see,
Put your mind to
I know,
that.
yeah, no, that's the thing. I mean, something like that. I was like, man, I want to do Ironman someday, but I know it's like once I start, like I'm not gonna waver. Like if I'm in, I'm in. It's the
And
same
you
thing.
have to be.
Yeah,
Trust me.
and it's the same thing in the video side of things. Because I was like, look,
Yeah.
if I'm really, and I had this conversation with her, creating all this, and I was like, if I'm doing this and it's, I'm putting my name on the line, so to speak, and my reputation, like I'm not gonna waver from that. And there's times where I've grown within my business too by not overloading my plate. Learning how to say
No,
no.
no to a job
Yeah,
or
where it
offer.
might
And
not be a good fit. And I've actually, I've had to do that a couple of times, but I've done it in a way that is respectful
I know
and
when I look for sponsors for like my stuff and
uh
for the company. Now we do have one show. It is called Out Drink the Coverage, and
uh
so it kind
right,
of bit. I don't go out of my way to look for. I was looking for sponsors for like sideline to sideline, and next year we'll have another Brock show and we might have this show or that show. And
Right.
I'm looking at doing 2 new shows this spring. And I'm like, well, I don't want the liquor store because that's not really what
Right.
what we represent.
Yeah, for
And so
sure.
I think you got to be really careful. And
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
not everybody in our company is a Christian, but I am.
Yeah,
And so that's super important to me,
yeah,
like what I choose to use to promote my business.
absolutely. And I
And
even, along those same lines, not even going along lines of music and, being faith
yes,
based, that's one thing I always try to be mindful of. Because I want
what
some,
lyrics?
yeah, absolutely. And I will manually go in there and cut out anything that is, because I'm like, I want, if I can't let my son watch this, then I don't want it out there.
100%. And that was one of the
And
things, well, when I set my photos to music for something,
yeah,
I'm like, oh, not listen to that. Oh, not
yeah.
choosing that one. And when Taylor would edit, he'd have to find the clean
Yeah, for sure.
mix,
Even on the clean, sometimes you still have to. Yeah, what they
highlight
consider clean
something.
versus what we might consider clean is two different
Two
things.
different things.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
So, and then in college, that's a whole new world.
yeah.
You got a lot more freedom, a lot more
Hmm.
influences. You've got a girlfriend to ground you at that
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, and then
walk.
she got saved whenever we were in college, and it was pretty. It was a pretty cool moment, and I mean, she wasn't like a bad kid or nothing. No, she was great, and
Well, I mean, you could be a
yeah,
good kid
yeah,
per se without being a
right,
Christian. I mean, because I didn't come to my faith until I was much older.
uh-huh,
And I was never, I won't, we say we're not a bad person and all this
right,
stuff, but we know what that means. But I mean, generally speaking,
yeah,
not breaking the laws
yeah.
and, I was a good person.
Right. But like I said,
But
that don't get you into heaven.
yeah, unfortunately, that's the
Yeah.
part that just
Yeah.
doesn't get you into heaven.
Yeah.
But so, I understand, she was a good person. You probably wouldn't have dated her.
Right, for sure. Yeah. Or probably, goes both ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, her and my family, they hit it off. And I mean, it's funny. We actually lived like just a few blocks away from each other, like growing up,
Really?
and we didn't even know. And I'll never forget my address was 2304. And I'll never forget the first time I went to go pick her up. Her address was 2304. And I was like,
Hmm.
this is ironic. And anyways, we even have video footage from like whenever my sister was doing dance,
Mm-hmm.
whenever she was little, when I was there watching my older sister, and she was actually there dancing at the deal, and you see on like old VHS
There
tapes,
you have to hold it up here.
and and you see us crossing paths on like that old. It's crazy.
Kind of
Yeah.
like one of those predestined
Oh, for
things.
sure. Yeah, it was an easy choice for sure.
So you're both Christians. You're raising
Hmm.
your kids in a Christian household. Which, by the
Yes.
way, congratulations!
Yes.
I
Thank you.
saw that your son
Yes.
chose to follow Christ and got
Yeah.
baptized very recently, like a
Yes.
couple weeks ago. Recent.
Yes. Absolutely. That's we pray with the kids every single night before they go to bed. And I always ask the Holy Spirit to move in our children's lives and move in all of our lives. Help me to be the leader of my house and lead us in a way that you see fit. And there was times he would ask questions, and I could just tell. I was like, man,
It's
it's like
getting
I
close.
feel like the God is speaking to him. And we were at our Christmas Eve church service. And anyways, we go to Greenwood Baptist,
Uh huh.
and Pastor Brian, he says gives everybody the opportunity at each of every service,
To
to
come
say the prayer
forward and
and say the prayer, and you can say it in your heart. And anyways, I'm never forget, him telling us that he's like, I invited God to come in my heart and be my Lord and Savior. And anyway, it was a pretty special moment. We got to work on that little one though. She's my niece and nephew. They actually got that's when we're in Brownwood because they got baptized this weekend. And we were talking about this weekend. We said because there's 4 grandkids in the family, and it's like we got 3 down and 1 to go. And
go.
it's like, man, that last one, she's a little spitfire. I mean, I'm just giving her a hard time, but
She's a
she's.
beautiful
Oh,
girl.
thank you
You
so
guys are
much.
gonna have your work cut out for you.
Yeah. And anyways, I just that you hear about all this stuff, and what goes on at schools, and the things that kids get into, and I feel like the main it's have your kids involved in the church.
Absolutely.
And because it was a big part. I mean, I just thought that was what everybody did when I grew up. I mean, my mom and dad always had me up there, and
Were you surprised to learn that not everybody grew up in
yeah,
the
not
church?
everybody did that. Yeah, and I, and that paid dividends to me early on. You know, my youth to as I got older, making
Yeah.
good decisions and all those things. But yeah, I mean that's the thing that we're both in agreement on is making sure that we have our kids involved in the church and
Hmm.
just to be a big part of their life.
Having your identity in Christ, do you find you have, I'm going to guess you do, but the difficult times and the easy times, describe how that's helped you through some of the difficult times.
Are you meaning like within my business
It,
stuff?
life, it could be
Yeah,
business life. I mean,
yeah. I
we
mean that.
experience it on both sides
Yeah.
of the coin there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean it was probably I don't know if it was 3 or 4 years ago. I felt like we had not like a stroke of bad luck, but I felt like I was just kind of down on my luck. I was trying to like maybe force some things with the video side of things and things at my day job were just kind of not up in the air, as so to speak. But some of the working relationships weren't great, and it was. I remember us being on the phone that one day, and I mean, I was getting emotional about it. And I was like, man, I just do not know what to do. I mean, I feel like I'm at a breaking point. I feel like I'm just busting my butt and not getting anywhere. And I think even it ebbs and flows.
Hmm.
Within my walk. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I'm not just I try to read my devotional in my Bible. In the evenings and then life. I feel like I let it get in the way. And then I fall off and I get back on. And then it's just this ebb and flow.
Kind of like
Um,
the Israelites.
yeah, and I was just like, man, I think once you get to a point like that, I think in your life where you don't have anywhere else to turn, where you feel like, you have that retrospect of looking back and it's like, man, I was trying to do it all on my own. Um, and like, God, just, I don't know what to do. If, like, I know I'm at the point where I can't go, left or right without feeling like I'm making the wrong move, whether it was in my business or my job. And like, God, just please show me the way, like what you want me to do. And anyways, like, I mean, these doors just started kind of without me even having to like pursue it. Like I was getting approached, or people were coming into my life that um, I was like, man, I mean, this is a God thing,
You start
thousand,
seeing,
1000%. It's a God thing, and before you know it, you look up and it's like, man, I felt like I was, you know, about to burn and crash out, and now all of a sudden, all these things are falling into place. But it took that moment for me to realize, don't be relying on myself solely, because I'm trying to force a square peg in a round hole, because I'm trying to do it my way,
yeah,
and I'm not listening, not actively seeking God's guidance and direction, and
listening for his
yeah, listening
voice.
for His voice, and people are like, well, how do you know what God? My thing is like, if what you feel in your gut, those times when you feel it's like,
Hmm.
man, I don't know, I feel like that's God and the Holy Spirit,
Many times.
talking
Sometimes I
to
found
you.
it's myself because I'm really selfish.
Right, right.
I admit it, I'm really
Yeah.
selfish. I'm like, is that me or is that God?
Right. No, for sure. Yeah, you always have those conversations in
But
your own
yeah,
head.
no, I know what
Yeah.
you're saying. And you just know
Yeah.
it comes a point you just know this is God's leading and
Yeah,
directing.
absolutely. And I mean, there's time, that I've wanted things to be on this timeline that I thought was going to be the right timeline, and but it wasn't
They
God's
didn't
time.
work.
It wasn't God's timeline. And once I, really tried to accept the fact that there, and I still to this day, it's like if it's meant for me, like God's gonna. I don't have to fight for it. I just need to trust His timing in literally everything that I do, because. And I look at these other creators and the things that they get to do. I'm just thinking about the media side of the business things, and I'm like, man, it's like how, this, 18-year-old kid getting to run around and go do some of the things that I want to go do, and I'm like, I feel like I'm, there. And then all of a sudden it's like, don't, that was God's timeline for him, at that point in
Exactly.
time, and, I'm 37 years old and I feel like, it's like, man, well, I feel like I'm not,
I'm
yeah,
behind the, on,
yeah. And
uh,
but then it's like God can create whatever He has
look how
planned
old
for your life.
Moses was and Noah was and Abraham was, you
Absolutely.
know, and you're not alone in that. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it's not just you and me
Yeah.
alone in that either. Same thing, why does this creator who's
Yeah.
only, especially now you're starting to see a lot of young creators
Yeah.
and they've got thousands of likes and thousands of
Hmm.
followers. And it took somebody pointing out through scripture and verse and stuff,
Hmm.
but that's not for me.
Yeah.
God will give me what is mine
Exactly.
as long as I seek his will. And
Yeah.
I may never get to be a professional
Right.
photographer, and I may never get to be, this podcast may never reach more than two people,
Yeah. But
but
yeah,
but one of those two people might be the one person that needs to hear it. And I've actually had
absolutely.
that happen. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But I may never, I do, I look at that and I'm like, well,
Yes.
and why are their pictures so much better? And
Hmm.
I'm
Or
watching
the,
videos and
yeah.
I'm practicing and I'm trying to expand. And,
Right.
but then it just goes back to, is that if I get jealous or upset, because there gets to be a little
Yeah.
jealousy there. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
that's
for
a
sure.
sin. I
Yeah.
can't be jealous. I mean, this, everybody, content
Yeah.
creating, we're supposed to share and lift each other
Yeah.
up. And it doesn't always happen.
Right.
But God will give me what's mine in my time if I
Absolutely.
just trust him.
Yeah. And I think one thing too that I really leaned into is, is not doing what other people, not chasing what, maybe the hottest trend is or whatever,
Yeah.
because I was like, man, I want people to like what I'm putting out. And and I feel like God just kind of, he's given me that guidance and direction, and he's whatever I feel like that I like. Don't do it for others. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to do it for myself either, but I'm doing it for God and the people that how you do your thing. How you take your photos. And the crowd that you attract is going to be different than what Tommy or somebody else might do.
Exactly.
Or
This creator takes these
yeah,
kinds of photos
yeah.
where somebody else is taking these
Yeah.
kind of
And I've grown to
photos.
learn it's like there's plenty, there's room for everybody, at the table to eat.
I
There's
agree.
plenty to go around. And I just feel like if you're true to yourself and what God's given you and the vision that you have for how something needs to be, like nobody else has your eye. I mean,
Well, that's
nobody.
not saying much.
No, it is. No, it's true.
Going
No,
blind and totally left brained.
no, no, but you get what I'm saying, though.
Yes.
And nobody, I mean, my vision. That's the beauty to me with anything related to a camera. It's still just a camera at the end of the day. But when you put it in your hands or somebody else's hands or my hands, we get a totally different perspective.
Three different views of the
Yes,
same
of the
picture
same thing because
or the
people have
same
a
object.
different eye for how they see the game or whatever it is that they're filming or
I just wing
photographing.
it.
Yeah.
I just get out
No,
there and
there's
I just
times.
wing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, there's times, throughout the season I was just like, God, please let me, be in the right spot at the right time.
100%.
And I mean there was times I remember it was that was it the Fort Worth Dunbar game. I think it was a
Hmm.
first round playoff game. And I probably got two of like my favorite shots of the season. It was one of Holt's passes to Colt and a touchdown, and then the other one was to B Ray, and it was like what I see. I'm like, man, one of these days I'm gonna get a shot like that. And then I got like
Boom, two
two in
in
the
one
two in one game,
game.
and I mean, if I would have been anywhere else, it wouldn't have been like that. But I was just
And
like,
because those shots are so few and far
yeah,
between, God's got you in the right spot because they're
yeah,
just the perfect and they only come around like once
once,
in a
yeah,
great while. It's like getting the ball right on the bat
yes,
is
absolutely,
so
hard to
hard. And
do.
you're like, God, please once, just let
Let
me get
me.
the ball on the
I
bat.
know. I know, but just having those internal conversations, with myself and just being in communication with God and And anyways, it is.
I think as content creators, we need to get together before these games and pray.
Yeah, hey, for sure. Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
got the boys praying. Of course, we're all taking video
yeah,
and photos of them
right.
praying,
I
and the
know.
girls, and
Yes.
whatever. We got to put down our cameras and go pray for ourselves and
Yeah, absolutely.
pray for safety on
Yeah,
top of content
yeah.
creation. So,
Where were we?
just
Yeah,
keeping
the
faith in
shots.
what God gives us. And I don't know. I couldn't do it without him. I could.
No,
I've learned I can't even do life without him anymore.
no.
And um, like you, I have ebbs and flows where I have a really strong faith walk, and just
Yeah,
so involved in it. And
absolutely.
then there's times life gets in the
Right.
way, and I find during the high points of the season, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even just from because I mean, I like working out and all that, but it's like I'll get good, and then one of the sports season gets here, and then I leave in the dust because I feel like I'm not making time for it. And I still need to honor God with my body and how I treat it,
Yes.
and so that's my goal and my plan for from here on out is to still make time for that. Um, just for myself, just far as from
Well, I'll give
I
you a
feel like I'm,
training plan.
yeah, I feel like I'm mentally, I'm sharper, when I'm focusing on eating right, drinking a gallon of water a day, and
Taking care of what God gave you.
absolutely, because it's like I'm not if I don't take care of this, I can't go do what He wants me to, what He's called me to go do. So,
And
um,
he's given you, some
yeah,
amazing callings. I mean, you're taking care of the earth.
yeah,
I mean, really, you are. You're
yeah,
taking care of his creation, which is what we're commanded to do, or what we were given a job to do.
yeah,
And now, he's giving you a family,
yes,
and which is, something he's covenanted with us.
right,
You're going to leave and create your own family, and now he's giving you this new exciting
yeah,
content job where you're getting to do this amazing job that can glorify him, and you're
hmm,
taking pictures of people glorifying him, and you're kind of being poured into too as you
yeah.
sit and you're
Absolutely.
listening to these
It's a thing like if what I'm giving,
listening.
I'm giving it, getting in return. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you're hearing Billy talk, you're seeing the
Yes.
kids, and the kids are talking to you. And I think if you're getting the opportunity, because I don't know how many athletes that you interact with go to
Right.
Greenwood, because I know they go here, they go there, they go there. And
Yeah.
um but by pouring into others, I find is a blessing as well for myself. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I've used to get out of my comfort space, and I
Hmm.
really want to do within this community, because we send money to missionaries all over the world,
Yeah.
but what about right
Here.
here?
Absolutely.
and
Yeah. I think
um
about that for
and
sure.
that's one of the things and the church that I go to, that I lead the ministry team, which I don't really lead it. They just said you're the leader and gave me a title,
Hmm.
but I'm surrounded by amazing people, and our passion is wanting to do stuff right here in the community. So I
Absolutely.
think, and as content creators, we do have the opportunity to do
Yeah.
that, because my passion is the student
Hmm.
athletes, the young people. And I haven't got to do much of it with them, because I interact with them a lot during the game,
Right.
and I can't really interact with them except in the dugout. I can interact a little bit in the dugout, but
Yeah.
not a lot, because they
Right.
still need to focus.
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
that's really what I want to do,
Yeah.
is that.
Yeah. For
So,
sure. Yeah. And then, like I said, the mentoring thing, that was a fun thing. That was the first time I got to do that, with some of the football players this year, and just trying to pour positivity and faith into them.
but did you not feel that
No,
you got
absolutely,
a growth out of that yourself in
absolutely,
your own walk? Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, and and it makes you, when you think about being an example for somebody, it makes you want to be, it's like, hey, I need to be. I mean,
You're being asked to step up.
doing what I'm, you know, not preaching to them, but what I'm saying to, people, I need to do that for myself too.
Are you
And it makes
walking that walk
exactly.
on top of it? Because
Yeah.
do this, but don't watch me
Exactly.
do
Yeah, I don't want to
that.
be a hypocrite by any means because I
And
want to be, you know, doing what I'm not telling them to do, but just,
yeah.
you know what I'm
And not
saying?
that you're not going to mess up. I
Yeah,
mean, we do, but then I think it's a how you acknowledge it. And
absolutely.
I've even gone as far as asking Billy about that. privately. He goes, I've had to
Yeah.
say, hey, I handled this wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's impactful. And that's got to be
Yeah.
impactful for a young man to hear another
Absolutely.
man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you when you're around, as a maybe it's a male thing. I mean, or male and female thing. As a guy, it's like, man, you need to be the tough guy. Not that Christianity or being a Christian is looked down on by any means. Obviously, it is some places, but
Yeah.
when you're around somebody else that's bold in their faith, it's like, you know what? Like, what am I afraid of? Why should I be afraid to
I think,
to pray in front of people or
yeah, it's a completely, people say, well, you're meek if you're a Christian. I don't think that's true. I think it takes a strong force to
yeah,
stand up, especially as a man and a leader, to say, I am a Christian. My identity is in Christ. I'm
absolutely,
a child of God, and I would love to lead you in prayer.
yeah,
And people are like, what? Like,
yeah.
I think that's something that is completely powerful about that people miss.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, it just goes back to when you're here, when you're around, like we talked about, kind of at the first being around, asking God to put those people in your life that you want to be there and take away the ones that you don't. And when you're around those type of people, um, that aren't afraid to, be bold in their faith. And it's not that they're throwing it in people's face by any means, but they're just giving gratitude where they, they're giving it the glory to God in anything that they do. And
And it's
they're not
sincere.
they're not forgetting the purpose of why they're in the position that they're in, and that's to, be leaders of men.
And one of the things I've noticed over the last 2, 3 years is in professional sports, you're starting to see more of
Oh
that
yeah,
too. And I'm not saying everyone is sincere, but I'd say the majority of them, because in professional sports, it's always been looked down upon
yeah,
to do that. But more and more athletes have come forward.
yeah. C.J. Stroud, Brock
Y-
Purdy, all those
Yeah,
guys.
and just very bold in proclaiming. And then there was even one in
That's it.
hockey
Yeah,
lately, and I can't
yeah.
even think of his name, but
And that Jackson Smith and Jigba for the Seahawks. He was
yes.
every time he had a mic in his face, he was
Yeah, he's like,
first
and I'm not doing this. I'm not supporting this because it does not
aligned with.
align with my faith.
Yeah,
And I think people need, young men and women
yeah,
need to see adults in that position and realize there is power in that, and
absolutely. Yeah,
that
and if he's doing it at that level in a professional setting, and it's like, what makes you think you
you,
couldn't do that at the high school, junior high level, and be
ex-
strong in your faith?
exactly.
What do you got to lose?
What do you got to lose? I mean, this guy stands to lose more than you could ever stand
Yeah,
to lose with
but
his
they know,
career.
yeah, but
And
they know that their identities in God, and even if for whatever reason
they lose their
they
career.
lose it, God's got them,
Yeah,
because He's got a plan for them, and He's not gonna,
just like the high school athletes that lose their opportunity to play. These, a lot of professional athletes
yeah,
have lost their opportunity to play, and they've gone down that road of gambling and
yeah,
drinking and all the other stuff that leads to destruction.
because their identity was in the wrong
Was
things.
in their game,
Yeah,
and it makes me sad because, I mean, like I said, I came to faith late, and my identity got wrapped up in a lot of things
yeah,
that weren't, that I enjoyed but weren't
yeah,
important, and
yeah,
that included CrossFit at one time.
yeah.
And to learn that God one day just told me no.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even go to my next race.
Yeah.
I canceled my next race, and it started a whole new
To
journey.
recenter yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think our youth need to understand that it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because once you know, you know your identity and purpose. I mean, and that's one thing that I tried to be mindful of, even just throughout this last season, to not get, you know, obviously, I was under time crunches. We're all under time crunches every week to get things, done and knocked out. But at the end of the day, making sure I'm doing this, for the right reasons. And, when the times that I would be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, not that I didn't want to do it, but I'm like, I'm tired or wore out. And then I would, kind of not have a pity party, but it's like, you know what, God,
God bless me with it.
God blessed me with this, and I need to be a good steward of it, and take care of what He's given me. And I mean, then you kind of, once you flip that script, not that I have to, but I get to.
Yeah,
That's a
and
big
that's,
thing.
Taylor kind of helped me with that, because I want to be able to take perfect pictures on the field and not have to come home and do much. So I can just put out a bunch
Right.
of pictures. But I was feeling overwhelmed with the process of having to sit down, look through
Right.
hundreds of
Dudes.
pictures to edit.
And Cullen,
Yeah,
yeah.
put on the ones that I didn't think were good enough, to pick out the ones I want to edit, to pick out the ones I want to post. And it felt like such a process. And he goes,
Right.
you either have to like doing that or you
Yes.
need to quit. And I
Yeah.
thought, wait a minute, I've been blessed with this opportunity to do
Yeah.
that. Why am I
Yeah.
complaining? Because that's what's going to make my pictures better.
Exactly.
And
It's like it just goes back to falling in love with the process and the journey.
yeah, and
Not the destination of what you think is the pinnacle
and
of
then allowed me to
something.
take my left brain
Yeah.
because I'm very left brained and turn it into a little bit of a right brain and start getting
Yeah.
creative with some stuff.
For sure.
And it helped me to realize I'm lucky I get to do this, and I'm learning how to do this. I get to be on the field
Yeah.
and hear those boys, or
Yeah.
in the dugout and hear those boys.
Yeah.
You hear
Yeah.
both on the sidelines and in the dugout,
for
and some of those
sure.
are the best boys.
Oh, yeah.
It just
Yeah.
I am blessed that I get to do that, and
Absolutely.
it makes me look forward to doing that, especially when I rearrange my
Yeah.
thoughts. That God has
You know,
given me that
because
opportunity.
yeah, and then you look back at the hardest things you've ever done in your life that, you know, took a lot of, grit and just fortitude to keep pushing. And then you look, once you not accomplish that, but you reach that goal, and it's those are the things that you look back on, that the things that were the hardest are the most memorable,
Yeah,
that mean a lot, and it's character building and faith building, because you didn't get through that period without God's help.
yeah, I absolutely. I keep pointing back to these pictures.
Hmm.
These are only half Ironmans, but the process to get
Yeah.
there is so hard. And when I'm training, I get stuck in the loop of splits,
Hmm.
5 mile splits on my bike. Of course, 1 mile splits on my runs. And
Hmm.
but I know these were opportunities God gave me to do this, to push myself, because I could also think of Him. And when I'm out there, I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, please do not let me drown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please get me through this, please. And then my very last one, I haven't been able to train since then, really. My last one I did, I almost quit the swim, not even a quarter of a mile in.
Really.
And I mean, that's the first of the
That's the first
three.
leg. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first leg. And I had trained for it and I was ready to go. I mean, I could more than swim the distance and at a good time. And I couldn't get out there and swim. I couldn't breathe, to the point where the guy on the kayak is going like, do you need help?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just need to roll over on my
Yeah.
back. I mean, I almost quit. And, I actually swam on my back until I hit a sandbar. And I just
Oh,
kept
wow.
praying, God, please let me make it through this. Please
Yeah.
get me through this. And at that point, things turned around. But I mean, I could never do those
Yeah.
without His help.
Absolutely.
And I've got, back problems and hip problems, because that's just the way my
Life
my my,
goes.
my
Yeah.
life is gone. And He's blessed me, like after 2 back surgeries, to be able to do that. And it's truly a miracle
Yeah.
that
And what that's a testament to somebody else that may have had the same surgery, thinking that they
they
can't do
can never
anything.
do it
Yeah.
again. And I told my husband I was done, and really I don't have the desire to swim, and the training commitment's a lot.
Yeah.
I couldn't do my photography and do this. So thinking of selling my tri bike and getting a horse, honey.
They, uh-oh.
I grew up with horses, so this is
Yeah.
the first place I've lived without one. And
I got you. Yeah.
but
Yeah, that just goes back, like you said, some of the most difficult things in life are the most rewarding, for sure. And like I said, that's the beauty to me about sports, is just how well it aligns with faith, and you're doing something,
a
maybe.
talent God has given
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
I could not have done this, and especially the swim. That's the weakest of my 3 disciplines, and I dreaded the most. Like,
Yeah.
will I be able to make the swim before the cutoff time?
Yeah.
And God's blessed me beyond measure, and and He's made it. Even though I want to keep doing it, He's like, no, and I've had
Yeah.
to honor that, and it's been hard.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's because He's got other things in my
Yeah.
life,
For
and
sure. Yeah, and by following that, I mean, he's going to bless you through, not trying
and I'm
to.
hoping not
Yeah.
only will He bless me, but that I
To
turn around and bless
bless others.
Him and
Yeah.
bless others, but bring glory to
To
Him
him.
through it. And maybe, yeah, somebody said, well, she was an old lady with
Yeah.
broken back and did it anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then when if there's ever a time, where I've not that I ever felt like, man, I hope nobody gets, even doing the FCA thing or making it God centered, in some of those things. Yeah, I don't think I ever had the thought of, well, I hope this doesn't negatively affect, I don't think I ever had that thought cross my mind, so to speak. But thinking about it long term, if that's why I put it in my bio on all my stuff. That's the
that's the
first thing.
first word.
That's the first thing I put on there, because if somebody doesn't want to work with me because of that, then I mean that's
Right
totally
up
fine.
front, done.
That's totally fine with me, because I don't want to. Um, Not that I don't want to be associated with somebody, because I mean God
You
may
don't
use
want to
me in a way.
compromise
Yeah, I'm
it.
not going to compromise, my faith to appease somebody just to get business or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Because if they don't align with that and don't agree with that, then that's okay, because God's got something else for me even better. What I think would be a good opportunity, but the faith gets in the way of them wanting to work with me, then so be it.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah. And then I think that's really important. That was one of the first things I noticed when I looked at Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, and can't remember. I know I
Yeah.
looked at those two,
Uh-huh.
but those were the first things, even your company, that's the
Yeah.
first thing it says is Christian. And I
Yeah.
think that's the most important thing to what we can say is our thing. Yeah, I am a biologist. Yeah, I am a dad, a husband,
Yes.
athlete. These are things we get to do.
Yes. Yeah, that's not my identity.
That's not my
Yeah,
identity.
absolutely. But yeah, and I just get to, use those gifts and talents in a way that, and obviously I know I can still do better, ways of glorifying Him and, in anything that I do. And, and it's like the more that you lean into that, the easier things seem to fall into place. And then if and when I ever do get off of that, there's times where, like we talked about, ebbs and flows, and then you run into a rough patch, and it's like, man, why this happened? And then you kind of, you know, do a self check on yourself, and it's like, you know what, you ain't spending much time in the Word,
Yeah.
and you're not even giving God an opportunity to work in your life because
Are
you're
you
not spending time with Him.
seeking
Yeah.
Him, seeking His will, His
And even
direction?
just praying at night with my kids, just that one simple thing, like, helps me. I mean, every single day doing that with them, for one, makes me want to be a better man, better leader for my family, better husband, father. Um, keeps me just on track, you know, on a day to day without
Yeah.
really getting off the rails. I'm not saying I'm going to, oh, I'm
Yeah.
down and I'm drunk now.
No, I know
You know
what
what I
you
mean?
mean.
But
Yeah. But I mean, life can go
yeah,
sideways pretty quick.
yeah,
And when we do, how do we handle it to get back on track and
absolutely.
try to keep it on track?
Yeah,
Not that it will, because
yeah.
other outside forces.
Yeah, because I want to be the best example that I can be for my kids, and that's what going back to the starting Next Ridge Media was, and I had a conversation with Krista about it, because Brazos, he's older and he's heard me, say these things to him. May says she's still young, but so I'm gonna speak to same things to her that I did to him, but um, like whatever dreams that you have, like you go chase it, and and speaking that life into him, every day when he gets out of my truck, when I drop him off at school, I ask him, and what are you going to be today? I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to be a champion. And, and pursuing the things that God has called you to do, I speak all
Yeah.
these things, trying to speak that into him, to where, he doesn't put any, sideboards on what he can achieve in life. And I told her, I said, if I don't pursue what I feel like God's calling me to do, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to him, because I'm not preaching, or I'm not doing what I'm preaching to him,
Him.
and I was like, if God's calling me down this path, then I need to honor that and show him that I'm doing it. I'm actually following through with it. I'm not just talking about it, that he can see maybe one of these days, look back and be like, well, whatever Next Ridge Media ends up being one of these days, whenever I'm
Yeah.
older, that if I hadn't taken that step in faith, it wouldn't be what it is, to whatever it ends up being. And, and if I stay right here doing this, then if that's where God wants me to be, then I'm great with it. But if there's, other doors and opportunities that He has for me, great. But at the end of the day, you know, I, you know, I followed God's will, and not perfect. We all got faults. We all make mistakes, but I at least took that step in faith of not knowing what's on the other side, and
The other side of that ridge.
yeah, exactly, and it's you know, because it's like, okay, God, if I do this, so what's going to happen if I, go off and do this? Like, I want to make sure, but that's not how faith works. You got to do it, and you got to put your trust in Him to fully know that He's got your hand, and if He leads you to it, He's going to lead you through it.
My really good friend says that we have to use it as a verb. We have to faith Him,
Yes,
and use faith as a verb. We have to faith Him, and I think that just really sums it up. We have to faith Him and seek
absolutely.
that and trust that. It's not always going to be easy. People
No,
say, doing God's will and trusting Him, and it's going to be easy. No, it's not. But it's always going to be good,
yes,
and it's going to be ultimately good. It may not be a good journey at first,
right.
but because it's going to be hard, but it's going to be good, and it's going to be for His glory.
Absolutely. And
And
like I said, by living in that way, and the things that we try to teach our kids, and the thing, try to speak, positivity, and faith through them. The best way to do that is to show them, and
and
just showing them that if you do follow, what God has in store for you, if you follow God's plan, the things that He has in store for you, He can't give it to you if you don't follow Him.
no, and you don't
He
you
can't.
don't seek to get it from
Yeah,
Him.
absolutely. Yeah, because He wants to do those things for us, but He can't do those things for us if we're not following the plan that He has for our lives. And anyways, I just hope that one day, our kids look back and see the things, the choices that we made, the things we said yes to, the things we said no to, um, and where it led us to.
And it's the reasons behind it. God
Hmm.
led you to say yes, and God led you to say no,
Yeah,
and there's reasons He said
yeah,
yes and
yeah.
no,
And
and I think that's
I
amazing.
think back to all those, you think back on life and different decisions that you made, and where you would have gone. And now I'm a big believer, if there's any big decision that we have to make, as a family, um or within our businesses, my wife, she has her own business, Travel
Hmm.
S Boutique, and with her business, anything like big decisions that we make, as a family, I'm like, we gotta pray about
Pray.
it. And and people are like, well, you need to do pros and cons deal. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's good and all, but at the end of the day, if God didn't call you in that direction, then don't go. And but I just think back to the things that I wanted, but He shut those doors, just like those jobs early on that I thought was a perfect fit for me. And like I knew the other candidates for those jobs, and I was like, man, I know I'm not
Yeah,
trying to be boastful, but I was like, I know I'm better than those people, and that's maybe wrong for me to say that, but just in that work environment, I feel like I was more seasoned and
yeah.
had more
But God took
experience,
you down that different branch,
and it was better.
which took
Yeah,
you.
yeah, just because that one door closed, like what I thought, and like that was going to be really good if I did get it, but He opened up this other door that I
Yeah.
didn't even see, and it was 10 times better, and it led us here, and it led to all these other things that have happened, and it's like if I wouldn't have.
And now you're sitting here.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, and our paths might have never crossed, who knows, but um I mean, I'm just a firm believer in, these opportunities have, it's not just by happenstance by any means. I mean, it's nothing but God. And I mean, I can just look back and see Him working, not just in my life, but my family's life and my friends, and it's a beautiful thing. And just whenever I feel like I'm getting off track, I need to get back and be like, look, this is what got
Yeah.
you here, and don't forget that,
Yeah.
and just keep staying on that
All the
course. And
times He was faithful to bring you to the next step.
absolutely, yeah, it's
100%.
it's fun. I'm looking forward to, um just this next year, and I mean, there's doors that He's opened, that opportunities that have come along, and I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? People just reaching out, people that have reached out, even in the non, other things other than sports.
Sports.
Um, because I, it's like every day not that I struggle with it, but I'm like, God, if this is still something you want me to keep pursuing, like, put people in my life, or not that,
Put the
not give me work, put those
opportunities
opportunities there that I know that, like, this is
from
still how you want me
you.
to go. And just this week, I mean, something came up and I was like, wow, it's not me, but I think that's another thing, just as a creator, those, and what I learned, what I talked about, Krista kind of kicking me in the butt to start putting my work out there. And even though I think I'm like subpar, and I still have that, we talked about imposter syndrome, but putting your work out, like, nobody can find you if you're not putting your stuff out there.
That's
But
true.
just by putting things out there, like, people will find you that align with, like, your vision, and how, people, there's a difference, people like different music or different artists, because it
Hmm.
just speaks to them differently. And it's the same thing with what we do. And you're going to draw that crowd that, if you do want to make it for those that are, maybe wanting to pursue it as a business, don't compare yourself to, and that's, I still struggle with it, but I still try to remind myself,
Oh,
don't
100%.
compare
Yeah.
myself to them, because there's going to be people out there that enjoy the work that you do, whether that's photography or video.
Well, and your
And
particular style of
yeah,
doing it.
absolutely. And anyways, it's just been, when I truly try to live that and do that, man, it's pretty awesome seeing how far it's come.
Well,
And
I'm really glad to hear that story. And it should be encouraging to other people to realize that when you trust God, and even in the down moments, like when you were discouraged
yeah,
about not getting those two jobs you
yeah,
wanted, but to keep, when you regrouped and got back,
yeah,
circled back to God and your walk, the doors that He started opening
yeah,
and seeing, and where it's led. And I think that should be encouraging to people, and just a reminder that He's faithful, and
absolutely,
that's where you need to be looking for your identity to get
yes,
through life. I think that's
absolutely,
great.
absolutely. And if there's one other book I will recommend, if there's anybody, especially, and it's more geared towards men, but it's called the Titus 10. I don't know if you've ever heard of that,
I
or if
have
your
not.
husband has, but
I've read the book of Titus.
yeah. And anyways, it's kind of a, not so much I mean, I guess I've kind of turned it into a devotional. I'll read that and then I go and get in the Word, to make sure I'm reading out of the Bible, and and using that to let God speak to me. But that's been one of the. I mean, it's been a great thing for me to, it really goes into, what you put your identity in as a man, and using the tools and the gifts and talents that he's given you to, to glorify him, and being a good steward of the things that he's given you. When you think about, your wife, your children, your job, all these things, like,
Yeah,
um, you need to make sure you're taking care of the things that God has,
called you
called you
to.
to. And
And things like sports might not be what He's called you to, or if He's allowed you to do it,
yeah.
it's not numbers one, two, three, four, and five on the list of
Right, for
importance.
sure. Yeah, and that's a big thing, and I'm just thankful to still get to be around. Because when you think back on life, through, you know from elementary school to, junior high and high school, for an average, athlete, that's just such a short window.
Yeah, it
And
really is.
it's just such a short period of your life, and in that moment, that's like your whole life, but
It's
but
your whole
now
world.
it's your whole world. And now I'm just grateful that I've found um, I know God is, he knows that's a passion of, a big part of my life. And now I get to use video to still be involved, in some way,
In that way.
even
Yeah.
though I'm not on the field, so to speak, playing or suiting up,
Well, I don't know.
you know,
I've had to see some athletic moments on the field.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And,
people don't realize that being
yeah.
a videographer, photographer on the sidelines or on a basketball court or
Yeah.
something, hell, you've got to be paying
Oh,
attention. You're run over
absolutely.
by refs, by players, by cheerleaders,
Absolutely. And
trainers,
you gotta,
other video,
yeah, and you gotta understand and I think that's a big thing too, is like when you understand the game, and where to
where to
potentially
be.
be, and things like that, when you understand the game. So anyways, that's, I'm still glad that I get to, obviously sports with my, with my kids, and getting to be involved with that. But just from a video standpoint of getting to be involved with sports. And
Still allowing you
yeah,
that access
yeah,
to
and just
that.
that avenue because, I mean, I love sports, so it's just a cool way to get to, use what he's given me and glorify him in that process. So
Yeah. I definitely feel the same.
yeah,
I definitely feel the same. And it's given me appreciation for sports that I had less
yeah,
appreciation for
absolutely.
earlier on as well. So I think that's just so blessed. And being able to do stuff for these young people,
Hmm.
that's a blessing because, it makes them happy. And so
Absolutely.
I'm really, that
Yeah, absolutely.
that's,
Because
they eat it up.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
And
and
especially for most of them, like you said, that is such a short period of their life, and
yeah,
they don't realize,
because it's like you remember people talking
yeah,
to you and telling you those things. It's like, man, don't
don't get wrapped
it's
up
up.
in this and
Yeah,
that, and you're like, but it's everything,
you're
and
right.
now you're like, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, yeah, and then it's over, and
And I've gone through that with my kids,
yeah,
kind of telling them that too, with when I had to deal with friends and
right.
drama or
Oh yeah,
whatever, but at the same time, but now my kids are older and how fast even that
yeah,
went. And now I'm on to that next
yeah,
generation, a new blessing.
yeah,
And I'm going to get to watch them go through that
yeah,
and remind
absolutely.
them that that's just such a short period.
Yeah, and that's one thing too that I felt like I tried to do with some of the kids that I mentored. I got to mentor Jack D-Ball and
Hmm.
Tracy Thompson, and when you as you get older and you think back on those days, and it's like, man, those are some of the best times of your life. When you think back to that, and I always try to, it's like, man, just take a minute to just soak it all in and be grateful for the gifts that God's given you to be in
Yeah.
that moment, to get to suit up. He's given you, the athletic ability
And
to
those are
go out
two
there.
really good athletes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And go out there, you know, and have fun and do your job. But, you know, just be grateful for the opportunity that you have to get out here and go and do this and enjoy that moment and soak it all up, because these are some of the best. You're going to remember these moments for the rest of your life. I mean,
And they'll be
yeah,
great, but you'll go and move on
yeah,
to newer, bigger, and better moments.
yeah,
And
absolutely,
I mean, I'm sure if you look back, you know, sports was great, but then you moved on, and high school was great, but then you moved on and got married, and how much
yeah,
better that was, and
yeah,
what a greater memory that was.
right,
And then, you didn't forget the rest, and you don't
yeah,
forget getting married, but then you had your first
yeah,
kid, and
yes,
what an amazing gift that was.
absolutely, yeah. So I
So,
just always tried to, um, just speak that life into them, that God's got plans for you, whether it's through sports or it's not, and don't worry about what's going to happen, because God's got you. If it's got it in store for you, it's going to
I
happen.
think one of the two has really seen God play out through life.
Yeah.
You know, tri-
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, just that He is faithful, and
Yeah,
that it wasn't. It's not always easy, and
yeah,
you think things are going right, and they go backwards, and
yeah,
um,
yeah, for sure. And um, thankful to both those families. Johnny Lane, they've become great friends of ours,
yeah,
and we got to mentor him. And he's always, I love visiting with him, as he's always given me, you know, direct, just being able to talk to, somebody else sometimes shines a
yeah.
light on something else, and then, and
Well, and you hear it from a youth perspective too. Sometimes
yeah,
it's very interesting.
for sure, yeah, and then, um, yeah, getting to mentor him, and then, telling he gave me the opportunity to do some stuff with Trayson, and just super thankful for you know people giving me the chance, people giving me
Yeah,
the chance, and believing. It feels good when somebody believes in you and your work, to trust you to go out here and
with
do
their
something.
kid.
Yeah, to do something with them, and and I've probably, I've told people, I'm just telling blue in the face. It's like, man, I know I've told you thank you, but you don't know how much it means. Business aside, just from a friendship level, what it means to truly put your trust in me, getting to do something that I love, and you trusted me to get that done for you. And
Yeah,
that's a good feeling when people, I'm sure you've had people ask you to come do photos for them, and
No.
no, well, you know what I mean.
Maybe someday.
Yeah,
My daughter, she asked
yeah,
me, and.
yeah. But it's nonetheless though. It's if you feel like you're on the right track though when you, I guess just from me, whenever it just goes back to me asking, it's like, God, if this is something you want me to do, I pray that you would,
Yeah.
have those people come to my life, and it's happened for
Yeah.
sure.
I did have somebody ask me to do senior
Yeah,
pictures, and I didn't feel comfortable. And they don't know, I didn't pray, but that I got that instant deer in the headlight look.
right.
Because, I take action shots. That's
Yeah,
easy. That's easy.
right.
You mean you need lighting and you
Yeah,
need this and that? And
yeah,
I'm like, I can recommend somebody who's
yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
But like even doing this was obviously the first time I've ever done anything like this, and it's like you got that reservation. It's like, oh man, I don't know,
I
I'm
got to
not
go and
good.
talk on my faith. People might see this,
Yeah,
and then it's okay. Well, what am I going to be asked? Because I don't
yeah,
prepare anything in advance, and then
right,
will people not want to use me because I went on and talked about my faith, or
right, right.
I had that concern. Well, how's that going to affect me? That I'm going to come on and talk about my faith, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah,
That's what I'm being called to do, and I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah, and like I said,
Trent might not be being called to do that, but I'm going to ask him to do
yeah,
that. But
it,
I'm being called to do
yeah,
that.
and I
And I
think
think it's so important
yeah,
to honor that.
absolutely, and getting out of your comfort zone, because
It's definitely out of my comfort. Well,
yeah,
talking isn't, but
yeah,
talking faith is a little
yeah,
bit, as much as it's important to me, and putting it out there for potentially thousands of people to see. I've never been that lucky, I don't think,
yeah,
but I'm hoping someday,
yeah,
that potential is there,
yeah,
and that that I open myself up to
yeah,
criticisms and all sorts of stuff at that point. But
yeah.
I just don't have to read the comment.
You're right, yeah, and like you said though, I mean, if people get mad at you for that, then so be it,
I
you
mean, they
know.
did worse to Jesus than criticize him. So if all
Absolutely.
I'm getting is some criticism, I'm gonna have to grow some thick skin. And
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Or if people don't want to work with me because I'm, strong in my faith, then that is totally okay.
yeah,
And it's like
same.
the older I've gotten, the more I've just, not that somebody said, well, since you're a Christian, I'm not working. I've never had an experience like that. I'm not
But you
getting,
never know.
yeah, you never know.
And we're lucky, we live in an area, and we live in Texas, which is a pretty big faith-based
Yeah,
state. So we're very fortunate. It's not like
absolutely.
living in California and saying
Right.
the thing where you could be more likely to run
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but at the end of the day, there's nothing to be ashamed about, because I mean,
I'm
yeah,
very glad, and I'm glad I get to put this out
yeah,
there.
for sure.
I feel
Yeah,
like that was a real strong calling God put in my heart, was to speak to the younger kids. I am very blessed to have found God, very blessed to have all the things He is
yeah,
providing me with, and all the learning opportunities through the
yeah.
sucky times.
Oh,
So
for sure. Yeah,
I,
because that saying, where everybody can take their problems and throw them in a pile, and I guarantee, you would take yours back when you see,
some other people,
some other people, and you're
and
like, what you think is bad ain't
no,
that,
and
it's not the
I have
worst.
trouble with that, praying sometimes, or in group prayer requests, like in our women's group,
Yeah,
um, because my problems aren't like dying of cancer,
right.
or it might be a marital problem here or there, because every
Yeah,
marriage has its ups and downs, or it might be a financial problem because the oil field's in a
right.
downtime, or we had some emergency bills, or sickness,
Yeah.
whatever. But then I'm like, I don't want to ask for prayers for those sometimes, because like you said, in that
And when
pile.
you see what everybody else is going
But
through,
I've
you're like,
also learned that pile isn't supposed to be mine,
exactly.
and mine are just as
Important.
important,
Yep.
because they're the ones He gave me.
Yep.
Kind of like the skills, or the followers, or the
Hmm.
likes, those are the ones He gave me.
Yep.
So I've really struggled with learning that it's okay to have my problems
Yeah.
too, even if they're,
Even though they
yeah,
don't
granted,
seem
I would take mine back
right.
probably,
Yeah.
but it's okay to ask for the prayer for those, because
Yeah.
they are just as important to Him.
Absolutely. Yep.
But yeah, you're right, put them in a pile, I'll take mine back,
Exactly.
every single one of them.
Yes.
So, and
Yep.
some of them have been doozers.
Yep.
So part of my journey to faith was when Taylor was little. He had heart surgery,
Oh.
but he had a double aortic arch, so he was very sick all the
Oh
time.
man.
And because it basically took around his trachea and his esophagus, and just started
Dang.
You just watched in the slides that went down. It just kept going like this, and so part of the surgery, it took place. Granted, it was at a Seventh Day Adventist hospital,
Uh-huh.
but there was some good that came out of that because I
Yeah.
was not a believer, but I was already on my journey thanks to a counselor and the doctor immediately like, "Do you want to pray?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Why did I say yes?
Uh-huh.
And then he's going in for surgery, and the thing that I always remember is the picture of the surgeons, and
Uh-huh.
Jesus is behind him with his arms around him. So I'm like, that'll forever be, as much
Absolutely.
as a problem that was,
Yeah.
you know, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, how God
It
had
was
his
part of
hand
my,
in that.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
part of my journey, and that was a big problem. And I would absolutely, in a heartbeat, take that back and take it again over other people's problems, just because that got me
Yeah.
here.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. I appreciate you letting me even come and have an opportunity to do this with you. It was fun.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I'm so
Yeah, it was
glad. We
good.
need to collaborate again on
Absolutely.
something. I can take a picture.
Yeah,
Now I'm still
absolutely.
working on the lights,
Yeah.
still working on lights, but
No.
yeah, I appreciate that you came and
Yeah.
took the time out of your day and from your family and your
Yeah.
kids to sit down and talk faith and
Yeah. If anything, and
content with,
I hope maybe whenever
yeah,
my kids are older and maybe they watch this back someday and get something from it too. And
I hope
hopefully,
so.
there may be somebody out there that watches it that, helps them in their walk. So,
I hope so. So
yeah.
thank you for coming in and doing this. And
Yeah. No,
I
thank
look
you.
forward to keep creating out on the
Yeah.
sidelines with you and
Absolutely.
in the dugouts and
Likewise.
stuff. So
Yes. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing how this next year's going to go. It's going to be fun.
it's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great content. It's going to be great sports. It's going
Yeah.
to be great
It's
faith
great
walk for our
times. Yeah.
community. Our,
Absolutely.
you know,
Agreed.
we're going to get a revival in our community. So,
Absolutely.
and it's going to start with our youth.
Yeah.
100%.
1,000%. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, thank
thank
you
you.
very
I'll let
much.
you go home to
Yeah.
your family tonight.
I will.
Thanks.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.